من رأسه ففدية من صيام أو صدقة أو نسك فإذا أمنتم فمن تمتع بالعمرة إلى الحج فما استيسر من الهدي فمن لم يجد فصيام ثلاثة أيام في الحج وسبعة إذا رجعتم تلك عشرة كاملة ذلك لمن لم يكن أهله حاضر المسجد الحرام واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب الحج أشهر معلومات فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج وما تفعلوا من خير يعلمه الله وتزودوا فإن خير الزاد التقوى واتقوني يا أولي الألباب
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So carry on from last week, inshallah. Last week we had a quick summary of the essentials of Umrah, step-by-step guide of Umrah, and also the rules, in-depth rules of Ihram. So inshallah, before we start, I thought today, in case some of you wanted to make some notes, I prepared a little booklet which has got some of the key slides. They're at the back if you wanted a copy. So that, and also there's also space in there to make any notes or anything, and also to make it easier for the questioning. If you wanted to, for example, scan the QR code and you found the QR code was too far last week as part of your feedback, we've also put the QR code on the front cover as well for us, inshallah. But inshallah, we'll get started. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is part 2 of our Hajj workshop. So last week, we're gonna, at the beginning, we're going to have a quick recap of an overview of the key things mentioned last week. Thereafter, we'll go through the 5 days of Hajj in a bit more detail, inshallah. And for the benefit of those that maybe may not have come last week or wanted a recap, we'll also just cover visiting Medina Munawwara one more time as well as in terms of the top tips and etc. for the actual days of Hajj as well. And lastly, inshallah, same as last week, any questions that we have, we'll go through them at the end. So if there was anybody that didn't come last week, around as we have plastered these QR codes, also we put them on the table so it's closer for you. But it's also the front page of the booklet should you wish to use the booklet as well. So any questions you have, if you feel that maybe my explanation was too fast or too brief, for example, or you wanted some clarity or anything you wanted to ask, maybe you might feel like I missed something out, feel free to at any time scan the QR code and we'll go through the questions all together at the end, inshallah. So a quick summary of what we covered last week. We started off talking about the main aspects of why we visit the Haramain and how it's a spiritual pilgrimage, a spiritual journey. So it's very important we get the intention right. So our 4 intentions that we're making for this journey was: number 1, forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala; number 2, reconnecting with our maker; number 3, for a spirituality boost; and number 4, it's a journey that we'll be following in the footsteps of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But nonetheless, inshallah, before we start, before we go in, we need to make sure we are spiritually ready as well as physically ready. So this is a summary of what we mentioned last week of what we need to think about before we go in. So in the booklets, one of the things I have made for you is on the first page, I've made something called the My Dua list. So this can help us maybe start thinking of it, what du'as we want to add to our list. And inshallah, thereafter, if you you want, I think if you open just the turn the knob on the door and maybe press that switch, you should be able to open it. And there's a switch over there. So the first page of the booklet, I've prepared a dua list, so that can help us what duas you want to make for yourself, for your hereafter, for your family and friends, in terms of your religious journey, and also duas for the ummah, as well as any other duas you want to make for study or work, etc. So there's that also. And then obviously we mentioned these things last week of preparing psychologically, spiritually, and physically before we're going. So ensuring we're packing light. So this packing list I gave you last week is also in the booklet that I prepared for you. So if you didn't manage to get any of these slides last week, you'll find some of these key slides in the booklet as well. But for those that weren't here last week, the first thing that we mentioned last week was we talked about the adab, the imperative etiquettes of this journey. So we have to differentiate that it's not just a normal holiday that we're going on. And because it's a pilgrimage, we want to make the most of this journey. So we're going to start off by making a strategic timetable, first of all. Secondly, we want to revolve our days around worship, doing as much worship as we can. And we have to remember that every moment on this journey is very, very precious. So we want to make of these moments. For many of us, this might be the only time we get to go in our life. May Allah take us again and again. But the journey of Hajj, Umrah, we go much more regularly. The journey of Hajj for many people could be because of the financial, how expensive it is, for many other reasons. For many people, this is only once in a lifetime opportunity. So we want to make sure that every moment on this journey, we've made the most of it. And that's why we also said that we want to make this an unplugged pilgrimage, that we want to try and reduce our time on our phone. And obviously, apart from the bare necessities, we want to, as much as we can, we want to try and live in the moment. So obviously that will include it, avoiding taking any other pictures and videos. Just last week, someone sent me a clip of one of the mashayikh in over there in Medina, when he was mentioning that when people come here and they're wearing the ihram, and then they're standing there and taking a picture in the ihram, then that means they're putting the ihram on for that picture. So the intention is not for Allah. And if you have intention for anyone other than Allah, Prophet ﷺ described that as minor shirk. You have to be very careful when it comes to worship as to when we try to publicize it, for what intention we're doing it with. So that also we have to bear in mind. Number three, like I mentioned last week, it's very important that we try our best to try and control ourselves. If any people have just walked in now, we've got some booklets at the back should you wish to get some. The key slides, as well as any notes you want to make or anything else is in there. You can use those booklets as well. So try and exercise patience. You're going to be around people from all walks of life. People have different temperaments, from different cultures, different backgrounds, different languages, and not everyone has the same mindset of how to be in society. Hence, you are going to be, your anger is going to be tested, your patience is going to be tested. So it's going to be, remember the key hadith I mentioned last week to you, 3 words Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Man samata naja, whoever remains silent has been saved. And if you make that your code of conduct for your Hajj will be successful. Because you won't say anything other than what you need to say. Anyone does something to you, you feel uncomfortable, you feel out of place, you feel that your buttons are being pressed the wrong way, and as such you feel angry, you want to say something, but man samata naja, whoever remains silent has been saved. And lastly, like I said last week also, when you get to Mecca first, don't get overexcited and do so much that when the actual days of Hajj start, then you're already flat out, you're already tired, you've got very minimal energy left. So you want to try and maintain the energy. So before we go to the actual 5 days of Hajj, we're just going to do an overview of the ruling of Umrah. So we're not going to go into detail like we did last week, but it's an overview of Ihram and Umrah, and then we'll go through the 5 days of Hajj, inshallah. So the first rule is that all of us are non-residents of Mecca, and the rule is that any non-resident of Mecca that is entering into the miqat zone and their destination is Mecca, they have to be in Ihram. Remember the key word there was, as I explained last week, destination is Mecca. So if you're going Jeddah first and you're going to stay there for maybe a day or two, or you're going to go Medina first, then even if you land in Jeddah, it's fine. You do not need to be in Ihram. But if you are not going to any of those other places first and your first destination is Mecca, then we have to be in the state of Ihram and we have to perform Umrah. And then we talked about the 3 types of Hajj last week. So we talked about the Qiran Hajj, where we join the Ihram for Umrah with the Ihram of Hajj. And then before the days of Hajj starts, then you have a tawaf that you do called Tawaf al-Qudum. And then the residents of Mecca, they also perform Hajj called the Ifrad Hajj. That is where the Ihram they wear is only for Hajj. And say, for example, someone is landing straight into Hajj, they're not going to get a chance to do Umrah. The intention for the Ihram is only for Hajj. They will do Ifrad Hajj. And but most people that go from outside of Mecca that go for Hajj, they perform what we call the Tamattu Hajj. These are in the order. So the way they are on the slides, this is in the order of superiority. So, like we mentioned last week, the Qiran Hajj is the most superior, most rewarding, but also the most difficult. We had a question last week in terms of Qiran Hajj, whether if we can do Umrah and then the day before Hajj we get into Ihram to do another Umrah, then we can join the Umrah and Hajj together. But if you're going to get into Ihram for Umrah, then you have to leave the hill. It's not just the Haram boundary. You have to go back to the Miqat because you need to re-enter into the Miqat zone to be able to have that Quran together, where you're joining both your ihram of Umrah and Hajj together. But most of us will be doing the Tamattu Hajj, which means we'll be performing Umrah. Thereafter, we'll exit ihram, and then we maybe, depending on how many days we have, we might take a little bit of a rest, couple of days, and then just before Hajj, or when we go through the days of Hajj, we're going to enter into ihram again, second time for Hajj. So this was the map of the Miqat zone. Most of us, if we are landing in Jeddah directly, then the miqat for us will be at Juhfa, which is 15 to 20 minutes away. I have also put a map of this as well as some of the other slides that we covered last week in the booklet as well. And this was the map we talked about last week of the Haram boundary. The key thing for us is two things. Number one is that all of the sites of Hajj, when you look at the locations, they are all within the Haram boundary. And any act of worship, any salah you perform in the Haram boundary, as we mentioned last week, it is multiplied 100,000 times in the world, subhanAllah. So this is a very unique space, very special space, and so hence we need to also uphold the sanctity of this place. When it comes to special things in Islam, whether it's special times or special places, just like good deeds are multiplied and the quality of those deeds are increased, similarly, any bad deeds or sins or mistakes that people do, the severity of that also is much more. So we need to make sure we take extra precaution, especially within the Haram boundaries, whether that's the Haram boundary of Mecca or the Haram boundary of Medina, that we do not do anything that might be something that would be disrespect to the place we are, the sanctity of the place that we are. So overview of Umrah, there were 4 steps. Number 1, we got into Ihram. As we mentioned last week, 3 steps of Ihram. We wearing the clothing of Ihram, make the intention, but the laws don't apply until you say your talbiyah, your labbaik. With that, you make your intention. That intention might be accompanied with those 2 rakats, which are sunnah to perform, Surah Kafirun, Surah Ikhlas. And then you might make the dua. Number 2, we learned about tawaf, the 7 rounds of tawaf which have to be done in the state of wudu. This is the tawaf for Umrah. Thereafter, you'll perform your sa'i for Umrah, you'll cut your hair, and you've then completed your Umrah. Then you're free to exit your Ihram. And then whenever the days of Hajj starts, we need to re-enter into Ihram. So when it comes to Umrah, the Ihram that we wear has to be for the miqat. So these are the 6 steps we talked about for us to enter into Ihram. So first of all, any self-care you need to do, any hygiene, have a bath, have a shower, any lotions, creams, deodorants, etc. Pray your 2 rakats, put your clothing of Ihram on, make your intention. But remember, number 6 is the key one. Until you don't say your labbaik, none of the rules apply yet. So that is the key thing there. And then we talked about in detail the 7 key areas of prohibitions in the Ihram. So these 7 key areas of what is prohibited in Ihram, if you violate any of those, there are 2 categories. I've put a list of them in the booklet. So the slide I showed you last week, in the booklet, we've got all of the violations, which ones are minor and which ones are major. I think that's in the middle pages of the booklet. So if you see all the major violations, any of these happen, then you will have to sacrifice an animal for each violation within the Haram boundary, and that meat has to also be distributed in the Haram boundary. The website I was talking about last week, I've also put that in there, adahi.org/en, so that takes you to the English version of their website. They will carry out that for you, so it'll be very easy. As for the minor violations, for each minor violation that you do, that is, you have to pay the equivalent of Sadaqatul Fitr, which currently this Ramadan, most masajid advertise at approximately £5. So for every minor violation that we do, that's how much we have to give that. It's recommended to give that also in the Haram boundary, but you don't necessarily have to. So should you wish to give that sadaqah anywhere else, whether that's Gaza or anywhere else you want to give that sadaqah to, that can still apply. Your sadaqah will be done and you'll have paid the penalty for those violations. But inshallah, you spent last week studying all of these in detail. So I think you'll be very well aware these are the violations, and I'm going to try my best not to make these violations in the state of Ihram. When we first get into Ihram especially, mistakes happen. Like a common mistake most people do is when they're in the Ihram, they may be at a transit in the airport, they may have some food and they go to the bathroom, and they might have a habit when you wash your hands in the bathroom, your hand goes towards the soap dispenser, use some soap, you forgot you're in Ihram, you had said your labbaik already, and now what do you do in that scenario? You violated it. So now you need to look at the violations, how much of my hand was actually covered with that soap, and based on that, then you'll be able to work out what violation penalty that you need to give. So this, which is on the slides right now, we're not going to go through each of those in detail again, but that is there for you in your booklet for you to take, inshallah. Lastly, before we move on to the steps for Hajj, a quick overview of Umrah. So number one, we enter into the state of Ihram with the intention and the Talbiyah. 7 rounds of Tawaf has to be performed with wudu. Thereafter, we perform 2 rakats behind, anywhere in the Masjid al-Haram. It's not going to be in front of Maqam Ibrahim, as we talked about last week. We want to drink some Zamzam water, facing the Qibla, make some dua. Thereafter, we want to do sa'i between the 2 mountains of Safa and Marwa. We talked about the running between the green lights, etc. And lastly, we need to cut our hair. And once we've cut our hair, we have now exited the state of Ihram, even if we're still wearing the clothing of Ihram, and our Umrah is complete. And this was the map we looked at last week of how to navigate yourself from the Mataf area into the Sa'i area. And the green lights area is where you perform your Amal. That is the fast-paced walking. So now we're going to start, inshallah, looking at Hajj actually in detail. First of all, we look at the sites and locations of Hajj. So as you know, when you go for Umrah, you just stayed in Mecca and everything happened around Masjid al-Haram and you didn't really need to go anywhere else. If anyone's been for Umrah before, they may have been for Ziyarah. They may have actually seen the different locations as part of Ziyarah when they went to see the different sites. But if you've seen that already, it's a good idea so you know what it looks like. But it'll be completely different because what is normally, when you go for Ziyarah, you maybe see 2 or 3 groups there. At Hajj time, you've got those millions of people packed into that area. So these are the 3 key other locations that we are going to go for Hajj. Number 1 is the Valley of Mina. Mina is a valley located 5 miles east of Masjid al-Haram, still part of the Haram boundary as when you looked at the map. It's known as the tent city. So Mina is the whole valley of Mina is covered in tents that hosts millions of people over the days of Hajj. And subhanallah, it's an amazing place. And in terms of the history of this place, this was the location where the first bay'ah took place when the first group of people came from Yathrib, from Medina, when they accepted Islam, the hands of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they pledged their allegiance, and that was at the place called Aqaba. That is part of Mina. So that is Mina. Then we have Arafat. Arafat is really the key point of Hajj. That's for those people that, for an emergency scenario, they fall ill, they get hospitalized, they get taken in an air ambulance on the day of Arafah, and they are taken into the area above Arafah so that the Hajj is complete. But if you don't actually do your wuquf in Arafah, even for a moment, you can do everything else, your Hajj is not complete. Yes, so the main thing about Hajj is actually Arafah. As the hadith the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Hajju Arafah, which is written on the bottom of here, Hajj is Arafah. Yes, so being in Arafah, that is really the highlight of Hajj. This is about 12 miles southeast of Mecca. There's 2 key landmarks. And number 1 is the Mountain of Mercy, Jabal al-Rahmah. This is where the Prophet ﷺ made his dua, where he did his wuquf. There is a pillar on top of the mountain. People try to go there. You don't have to go there. It's not necessary to go there. Normally, all of the pilgrims try to go as close to the area also. And there is also the masjid where the khutbah of Arafah takes place. And then lastly, the other place that you're going to go is Muzdalifah. Muzdalifah is an open valley. It's known as Al-Mash'ar al-Haram. It's located between Mina and Arafat. And over here, the night you will spend under the open sky. And it's the place where we're going to be collecting some pebbles, minimum of 49. But when we talk about what we do in Hajj, we'll talk about that in detail, inshallah. So all of these places are within the Haram boundary. So in the middle, the white small circle you can see in the middle on top of Grand, that is Masjid al-Haram. And the white area on the right hand side of the word mosque, those are the tents of Mina. Then you have also the Muzdalifah and Arafat in that area. And on the edge of Arafat is the edge of the Haram boundary. So the far right hand side, the orange border over here, the orange border, that is the edge of Arafat, that is the edge of the Haram boundary. And that's where we're going to be spending our time in Hajj. And like I said, everything that you do here is multiplied. The salah is multiplied how many times? 100,000 times. So it's a golden opportunity to really maximize. So I know we're going to be probably musafir. You're not going to be in Mecca for maybe more than 14 days for some of you. So you're going to be musafir. So you might think, oh, I don't need to pay my sunnats. I'm just a traveler. I don't need to pay my extra sunnats that I normally might pray. And I'm praying my 4 sunnah before Dhuhr, for example. But really, this is Hajj. If you're going on anywhere else on a holiday or journey, these things will obviously apply. But in Hajj, remember, every salah that we perform in the Haram boundary is multiplied 100,000 times. So really, you want to maximize on that, inshallah. But obviously, if you're tired and you need to rest or you're rushing for time, don't go out of the way and say the whole group is ready to go. And you say, no, Maulana said I have to pray my sunnah because I want to get the reward, and you're going to be delaying everybody. No, it's only if it's feasible, and you've got the time and energy, etc., to do so, then do that. So first of all, zooming in slightly to that area, that's Mina and Muzdalifa, which are connected to each other. In Mina, you have Masjid al Khayf, which is many people go there also. That's where also the day of Eid on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, the khutbah takes place. But it's not necessary to go there. Only if your tents are near there, you can go there. Thereafter, Arafah is more further on the edge. In Arafah, you have at the edge, you have Masjid al-Namira, and you have the Mountain of Mercy. And on the far left, we have Masjid al-Haram. Now, looking at this map will give you an idea that, say, for example, some people do choose to walk from places in Hajj solely because of how long the coaches take. Sometimes, some areas, it's actually quicker to go through walking. Some areas, you actually just go walking, is easier. For example, from Mina to Masjid al-Haram and back, some people just walk it. If you've got the energy and the strength to do so, or maybe you've got your hotels in Azizia, and so you can see how close Azizia is to the tents of Mina. It's very close. That's why Hajj season, many people prefer to stay in Azizia, just solely because if I need to go back to my hotel, I've got a non-shifting package, my stuff is there, I need to do anything, it's very close, I quickly commute to my hotel and back. But that is the map and layout of the locations of Hajj. If you want to zoom in slightly more to Mina, so the Jamarat areas are towards the left, closest to Makkah, and the tents that normally we stay when you come from the European tents, they're the furthest away from the Jamarat area in some scenario. It's closest to Muzdalifa, so that's a benefit there. But also, some people like to on the 10th of the Hajj actually go physically to the slaughterhouses. It's easiest for us in the European camps because we're the closest to the slaughterhouses. And if you ask, I'm sure if you ask your group guides, your group leaders, they'll be able to tell you if you want to go to the slaughterhouses. Some of them may actually let you go, tell you how to get there. That is an option if you wish to do that also, inshallah. So that is a map of Mina. Now, inshallah, once we looked at the locations and the areas, now we're going to start looking at the actual days of Hajj. So the 5 days of Hajj, the first thing we're going to do, we're already going to be in Mecca. I'm going to assume for the sake of for this presentation and workshop that we're doing tamattu. Obviously, if you're doing ifrad, then where you wear ihram, or if you're doing qiran, then you're not re-entering ihram, so some of these things might not apply. But for the sake of the benefit of the masses, most people do tamattu, so we're going to act as if we're talking about doing Hajj tamattu, inshallah. I've already had a few notifications coming in for the questions and answers. Feel free throughout these slides, anything you want me to explain again, you don't understand, just scan the QR code. It's also at the front page of the booklet. It's the same QR code. You can scan that and post the questions on there, and we'll go through those at the end, inshallah. So first of all, number one, same as we did for Umrah, we're gonna wear our ihram clothing. As we mentioned, this is just sunnah clothing. So if, for example, I take my ihram clothing off because I want to have a shower, I want to go to sleep, I want to go to the bathroom, that doesn't break your ihram. You don't exit ihram. They're just 2 pieces of cloth that need to be obviously unstitched, as we went through the rulings last week. So we wear your ihram clothing. Number 2, you make your intention, you pray your 2 rakats. This can be done in Masjid al-Haram or at your hotel, depending on where your hotel is. And remember, all of this does not have to be, you don't need to go to Tan'im, to Masjid Aisha like you used to for Umrah. You don't need to go out of the hill area to the closest miqat to re-enter. You can do this from your hotel room. You can do this from Masjid al-Haram in the masjid as well. Where you do this in Makkah, that's your choice. Yeah, you can do it anywhere in Makkah. That's the key thing. And number 3, like the same rule for Umrah. Once you say your talbiyah, that's only when the ruling applies. All the rules and laws of ihram only apply when you say your talbiyah, when you say labbaik. So when you're ready and you're thinking, okay, now we're going to start making our way towards Mina, for example, or the days of Hajj, I'm now entering into ihram. When you're ready, say your labbaik. And the moment you say your labbaik, now all the rules apply. So remember, before you say your labbaik, any creams you want to use, any deodorants, any perfumes, you can use all of that. Even if you've worn your ihram cloth already. You can even put perfume or deodorant on your ihram cloth as well, as long as you've done it before number 2 and number 3. Before number 3 is the key one, before your talbiyah. It's better also to delay the niyyah also. But even if you've done your niyyah, you prayed the 2 rakats and you went back to your hotel and you use some deodorant and some soap, that's fine as long as you haven't said your talbiyah yet. Key thing is, remember, number 2 and number 3 are the key ihram. and number three is what actually enters you into ihram. So the first thing you're going to do, day number one, 8th of Dhul Hijjah, we are going to be starting off obviously in Makkah. Fajr Salah, we pray in Makkah. After Fajr Salah is when we need to enter into Ihram. So anytime after Fajr Salah, you perform your Fajr Salah, you enter into Ihram anywhere, like I said. Then we're gonna, depending on obviously, you might have, your group might have a strict schedule that you might have to follow. They may say, for example, 9:30 a.m. or 11 a.m. or straight after Fajr or straight after Ishraq, for example, after sunrise, we're gonna start going towards Mina, depending on what your schedule is. If they give you a schedule, just follow that, but just make sure you're prepared for that. So the only thing we're going to do on this day, the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, is we're going to, once we're in the state of Ihram, we are now going to go towards Mina. We'll be taken to Mina. We'll be taken, that might be on a coach. Your coach will get there, he'll drop you off, your group leader will take you. This is our tent. This is where we're going to be located. Now, this day, there's nothing really extra that you need to do. So the main thing you can do on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, your first day of Hajj, three things. Number one, familiarize yourself with the area. Look at where's the closest toilets, where are we going to be eating, where are we going to be sleeping. Familiarize yourself with where everything is located. Maybe spend a few minutes walking around everywhere, so you know when it gets more busy as more people coming in, and then once the arkan start, when you come back, for example, on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, you know everything is ready. You don't want to be stressing out in those days when you're really busy in the middle of all of your rites of Hajj, trying to find, oh, where are we going to eat, where are we going to have breakfast, where can I rest, where's the closest toilets to me, where anything else. So all of this you can figure that out as soon as you get there. Other than that, in terms of rites, worship, there's nothing extra that you need to do apart from your salah. So really, you may be tired from your umrah, you may be tired from your flight, from all the moving around. This day, two things you need to do: pray your salah and get some rest. That's all you need to do. Get some rest. Wake up, maybe have a little nap, wake up, do some qira'ah of Quran, do some dua, do some dhikr, and then afterwards, you want to eat, stock up, go back to sleep, rest. Remember, main thing is keep hydrated in the days of Hajj. Yeah, so if you want to take some electrolytes or something else to give you the energy, those Lucozade tablets, anything that will give you that energy, because like I said last week, Hajj involves a lot of walking, and it's also a hot climate. We're going to a hot country, so be prepared for that. Stay hydrated and stay well nourished, inshallah. But you don't want to also overeat, because you don't know where you're going to be, and if you overeat or overconsume, then you need to use the bathroom much more. So you need to strike that balance. Obviously, you know how your body works best. Each person knows, we're all different. So based on what suits for you, what suits yourself, as long as you stay hydrated, looking after your health, main thing on the day of 8th of Dhul Hijjah is we're going to rest. So get used to where you're going to sleep. This is where we're going to be based for the large proportion of Hajj. And we're going to perform Dhuhr Salah here in the tents of Mina, Asr Salah, Maghrib Salah, Isha Salah, and on the next day also, 9th of Dhul Hijjah, the Fajr Salah will be performed here in Mina. So really, like I said, there's only two things we need to worry about here. Number one is making sure we're praying our Salah on this prescribed time, with Jama'ah preferably. So for example, you might have in your own tents, you might have, you do your own Jama'ah for your Salahs there. That's sometimes best option to do, especially on this day, where you don't want to do too much walking to conserve your energy. Pray your Salah with Jama'ah. Maybe after every Salah, sit down for a little while, maybe 20 minutes, pray some Quran, do some dhikr, some dua. After that, rest, stretch your legs out, have a nap again, have a nap. Really conserve the energy. It's sunnah to remain in Mina until sunrise of the next day. So now some groups, they try to tell you straight, let's go straight after Fajr. But ideally, if it gets slightly delayed, it's better to go sunnah to remain in Mina till sunrise. But as long as you perform your Fajr in Mina for the next day, that's fine. And like I said, this is all you need to do really on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. Any questions on this day, please post that on the QR code and we'll go through that then, inshallah. So the next day now, so the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, we performed all the Salahs in Mina. Now it's the 9th day, we perform Fajr Salah in Mina. And after that now, it's the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. This is what is referred to as the best day of the year. Whether those that are in Hajj or for the entire Ummah. The best day in the entire year is the day of Arafah. And this is an amazing day. So for us that are not, for people in Leicester and everywhere else that are not going for Hajj, that are not going this year, it is recommended for them to fast on this day. It's a very important fast. But in Hajj, you don't fast. So don't think that, we're going to lose out on the reward, because you're already going to get forgiven when you go for Hajj. What's the rewarding of fasting on Arafah? Your past year sins get forgiven, and the upcoming year sins get forgiven. But if you're going for Hajj, your sins are getting forgiven anyway. You're going to be, what did the Prophet say, the hadith we mentioned last week? You come back the same that the way the day your mother gave birth to you, completely free of sin. So you're going to get forgiven anyway. Don't think, oh, how come in Hajj I'm not going to be able to fast? I'm going to miss out on the fast of Arafah. No, that's fine. So, number one, you're going to pray your Fajr Salah in Mina. After sunrise from Mina, you're now going to make your way towards Arafat. Now, in Arafat also there are tents, but they're not the same way as the tents of Mina, slightly different. So, if you can't stay in those shaded areas in the tents, is best. Dhuhr Salah, you'll pray at its normal time. Asr Salah, you'll pray at its normal time. Unless you're going to be going to Masjid Namira. So, many people think that in Hajj, you have to combine the Salahs for Dhuhr and Asr also. That is only if you're performing with the Jama'ah in Masjid Namira. Masjid Namira is the masjid at the start of Arafat. If your group is going to be near there, you're going to be going in Masjid Namira, you're going to perform Dhuhr and Asr Salah behind the Imam of Masjid Namira, then you'll combine your Salahs. You pray your Dhuhr and Asr together. Otherwise, you pray your Dhuhr, maybe get some rest, go to sleep, have a nap, pray your Asr, wake up for Asr, pray your Asr, and then you need to, main thing of the day of Arafah is that we need to do something called wuquf. Literally, the word wuquf means standing. You may have heard this before, wuquf of Arafah, standing. The reason is the majority of the dua performed in Arafah is to be done in the state of standing. And also, Rasulullah also did it on the back of his camel also. So you don't have to do it all in one go. You can do dua a little while before Dhuhr, after Dhuhr. The main thing of Arafah is dua. Yeah, so two things. Number one is actually standing. So even if you can't stand for hours on end, stand for as much as you can. Maybe stand for 15 minutes in dua or 5 minutes in dua, as much as you can. But try and stand and make dua. Normally, we don't ever do this. Yeah, we don't normally stand and make dua. We sit in wherever we are, we're lying down, we're sitting down, we make dua the way we normally do. But when it comes to wuquf, we're going to stand and make dua. And we are going to be, the time for this standing is from Dhuhr until sunset. This wuquf has to be done between Dhuhr and sunset. And it has to be done for a few moments, minimum. But we want to try and prolong this as much as we can. So a lot of the energy that we've conserved over these days that we've been resting, the first thing we want to start using that energy for is for wuquf in Arafah. And really in Arafah, cry your eyes out. This is a moment for you to connect to Allah. Forget everyone and everything around you. Just focus you and Allah. This is for many people, this wuquf in Arafah is a changing moment of their lives. They may have lived their life however they want. They may have had ups and downs in life. When they did the wuquf in Arafah, that was a turning point in their life. That wuquf transformed them. When they came back, subhanAllah, they were, mashallah, completely pious person, completely different person, completely transformed individual. So that wuquf is very special. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua for so long that if you convert that time into the hours that we have right now, it's approximately between 5 and 6 hours in one go he was in dua. And majority of his dua was for who? For his ummah, for you and I. So when we're there, number one is this dua list that you made at the beginning of your booklet. Tick off these du'as. I've made this dua, I've made this dua, I've made this dua. Once you've done that, you might have taken a dua booklet. And in many of these dua booklets, you've got the translations of these du'as. Read through them and find some really amazing du'as. Why? Some of these du'as are sunnah du'as which the Prophet read himself, and they're very deep in meaning. So maybe have some du'as from the Quran, some du'as from the Sunnah. Last week, one of the recommendations I gave from the useful apps, which I'll put at the end again, is the app by Ummah Welfare Trust. They've got a project called A Life with Allah, and they've got an app called Dhikr and Dua. They've got du'as for all the different feelings you have, different needs you have, different Sunnah du'as, and also they've got the meaning in there, they've got the references in there. A very useful app to use. You can use that also. I know I said unplug pilgrimage, we're not going to use our phone. Only time to use your phone in Arafah is for Quran or dua if you don't have access to a physical book and you want to travel light. Otherwise, really, we don't want to take our phone out. Maybe put it on airplane mode to ensure we don't get any notifications to distract us before you take your phone out. Really, ideally, don't take your phone out. But say, for example, you want to use the app for the du'as, because really we want to make as much du'a as we can. And the best du'as we can make are the du'as which Rasulullah made. Because he knew exactly what to ask from Allah, what is best to ask from Allah. So make those du'as. Maybe, for example, split your time up. After Dhuhr Salah, I'm going to sit down for a little while. I'm going to, for example, read the Sunnah du'as. Then I'm going to maybe rest for 10, 15 minutes, half an hour nap. I'm going to wake up again. Then I'm going to read the du'as from the Quran. Then I'm going to rest for a bit, maybe freshen up, have some energy, and then really I'm going to do my main wuquf after Asr. So I'm going to pray Asr Salah, and between Asr and Maghrib, I'm only going to do dua. So the key du'as I'm going to make there. That's just a suggestion that I've just come up with right now in the moment. Obviously, you're going to see what's best for you, what you want to make du'a for, what the arrangements of your group are. But the really main thing I'm trying to highlight and emphasize here is that stand, cry, make du'a. And then you don't have to stand the entire time between Asr and Maghrib also. As long as you stand for a few moments, and you can sit back down and continue your dua. But try and really make the most of this dua that you're going to make. Alongside dua, what else can you do? Try and do as much dhikr of Allah. So, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulk wa lahul hamd, wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir. Rasulullah said the best thing that you can do, khairul dua, yawmul arafah, the best dua, or the best thing you can include in your dua on the day of Arafah is to repeat this dhikr. This La ilaha illallah, which is why I put that over here on the slide also. La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir. The best thing that a slave of Allah can utter on the day of Arafah is this thing over here. So that's the best thing we can do. So make dua, make dhikr, say La ilaha illallah, do takbir. You want to see your labbaik, say your labbaik again, keep doing dhikr as much as you can. We're going to be here from dhuhr till sunset is the time for wuquf. We're going to get there before dhuhr. Also in Arafah, you have a sermon of Arafah. So you might have, for example, you have the main sermon of Hajj, which takes place in Masjid Namira. But each camp and each tent might have their scholar, their imam, give a small talk or give a sermon. They might also, if there's a sheikh that does, you might have a time, they might allocate that, between Asr and Maghrib or before Asr, we're going to have a congregational dua. Because for some of us, we need that dua congregationally together to really motivate us and move us and get our dua going. And then after that or before that, we can also have our own duas also. So depending on what the schedule is with your group leader also, there's that also. So really just to summarize what I've said so far, we're going to get there before dhuhr. After sunrise, we're going to leave Mina, go to Arafat. We're going to pray dhuhr salah on its time, pray asr salah on its time, preferably with jama'ah, most probably in our own tents. Unless, for example, someone has gone to Masjid Namir, the next exception. We're going to have the main thing we need to do is wuquf, standing for a few moments, and the main thing we're going to do in Arafah is dua, 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 dua. Yeah, really cry our eyes out. And then after that, after sunset, when the sun's going to set, we're still going to be Arafat, but we're going to leave Arafat. We're not going to pray Maghrib. So the sun will set, you'll see Maghrib time will happen. You're not going to pray Maghrib. We're going to leave Arafat, we're going to go towards Muzdalifah. Even if it means that your coach journey or your walking or your group gets to Muzdalifah very late, that Isha time has started, and you might even get close to midnight where you finally find a place, it's fine. One of the things of Hajj is that on this day specifically, the 9th day, the 10th night, so when we get to Muzdalifah, one of the unique things of Hajj is we combine our Maghrib and Isha Salah in the time of Isha Salah with one adhan and one iqamah. So if we're going to arrive in Muzdalifah, it's going to be dark when you get there. So before you leave Arafah, it might be a good idea, because you've got a tent, you might have access to toilets where you know where they already are. Maybe freshen up just before you leave, so that in Muzdalifah you're not worried about, oh, when I get there, I'm going to need to use a bathroom, for example. So maybe it might be a good idea to basically make sure we freshen up in Arafah before we leave. Arrive in Muzdalifah, we're going to combine our Maghrib and Isha Salah in Isha time. Most likely your group leader will do Jama'ah there wherever you settle. Pray Salah with Jama'ah in Isha time. There's not going to be a separate Iqamah, just one adhan, one Iqamah, no gap in between. Just pray Maghrib, there's no sunnats, you don't pray no sunnats. 3 rakat of Maghrib, straight away you'll pray your Isha Salah with Jama'ah also. Then we are going to be spending this night in Muzdalifah, and there's 2 things we need to do. Number 1 is we need to collect some pebbles over here. Minimum number of pebbles we need is 49 pebbles. If we are going to stay in Mina for 2 extra days or 1 more extra day, you might want to collect 70 pebbles. But even if you've collected 70, you might still want to collect some extra, just in case something happens, you lose them or something happens. You can, and these pebbles, you can pick them up from anywhere, wherever you want. As long as it's not near the toilet area, because there might be a chance that they might be impure. And when you're in Mina, as long as they're not pebbles that have been thrown by someone to the Jamarat and fallen down and you manage to get that pebble. That's not going to happen anyway, but those are the only 2 types of pebbles that we can't take. Other than that, we can take pebbles from anywhere, but the best place to get them, and the place to get them really, is going to be from the ground of Muzdalifah. And over here, we're going to sleep under the stars. And for many people, There's been people who, for example, have never slept other than their own beds, even when they go on a holiday after a five-star comfortable mattress. But they say, when I went for Hajj, that sleep I had on the ground under the stars was the best sleep I've had in my life. One is you'll be tired from all the hustle bustle of Hajj, but there's a unique sense of sakina, tranquility that descends on Muzdalifah that night. And even if you don't feel tired, you might not even get to sleep, but just you lying down will really be very refreshing for you. And words won't be able to explain, but when you come back from Hajj, you'll be saying to whoever you talk about, so you might even say that, oh, I didn't even actually get to sleep, but me lying down under the stars in Muzdalifah was something unique in my life I've never experienced before. So try and get some sleep. Try and sleep until Fajr if you can. Obviously, it's going to be a very hustle bustle there as well, but you want to try and get some sleep over there. Spend the night under the skies and stars and get some sleep. So that is the end of the night. I've still kept this on the slide of the night, although in terms of the Islamic dates, from the Maghrib Salah, the next day starts. But in terms of talking about the day, so say for example, this was Thursday. Yeah, so it's still Thursday. So Thursday night after Maghrib, we went to Muzdalifah. We prayed our Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah together. We collected some pebbles either before we went to sleep or after when we woke up, and then we just went to sleep under the stars. And thereafter, we're going to wake up for Fajr Salah on the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah in Muzdalifah. So we're waking up now. For the rest of the world, this is the day of Eid. Everybody will be getting ready for Eid. For us that are in Hajj, for those people that are in Hajj, this is the busiest part of Hajj. And a lot of things are happening on this day now. If you really think about it, 8th of Dhul Hijjah was really just praying Salah in Mina. 9th of Dhul Hijjah was really Arafah, highlight of Hajj, and Muzdalifah, collecting the pebbles and sleeping. The last thing now is the actual day of Hajj, the third day of Hajj, and this is the last day we are going to be in Ihram. The other 2 days of Hajj, when we get to that in detail, will no longer be in Ihram. The last day in Ihram in Hajj, so 3 of the 5 days of Hajj, I've called it a busy Eid because for the rest of us in the world, it's a day of Eid. And also, before you leave Muzdalifah, you have to perform another wukuf, even if it's just for 10 seconds. Stand for 10 seconds, make dua, but you have to do a wukuf. When does this wukuf have to happen? After Fajr Salah. So after you pray your Fajr, your group leader might say to you, we're leaving straight after Fajr, no one do anything, we're going straight away. It doesn't matter. As soon as you get up after you've done your salam, get up for a few seconds, maybe make a short dua. So you've done your wukuf and it's done before sunrise. That wukuf has to be done before sunrise. Yes, that's the key thing I've highlighted there. Time for that wukuf is between Fajr and sunrise, and it has to be done in Muzdalifah. So for example, say your group leader moved you towards the border of Muzdalifah, so you're the first ones to leave, for example, to come back to Mina or anywhere else they put you. You need to make sure that you're actually in the border of Muzdalifah. Yeah, so there will be signs. Muzdalifah ends here or Muzdalifah starts here. So make sure that your wukuf that you do after Fajr is in Muzdalifah. Say for example, for whatever reason you actually have to perform your Fajr Salah outside the boundary. Make sure you come back within the boundary to do that wukuf. But that normally won't happen. But in case that does happen, the key thing you need to remember, this wukuf I do in Muzdalifah after Fajr has to be done in Muzdalifah itself. Otherwise, there will be a jinayah, a violation, a penalty to pay for not doing that wukuf in Muzdalifah. And sometimes many group leaders, because they're in a hurry or they want to get the coach, they want to be the first ones there, or they want to get whatever done, they don't realize people in that group miss out on this. They don't actually perform the wukuf in Muzdalifah, and now they have to perform a jinayah, a penalty for that violation. So obviously Fajr Salah, after that your wukuf is done after Subh Sadiq is done in Muzdalifah, and thereafter you can leave for Mina straight away. You can leave, it's better to leave preferably just before sunrise, but really anytime you can leave, you need to now go towards Mina. So you perform your Fajr, you've done your wukuf, you've got your things together. By the time you start to leave anyway, it's probably going to be sunrise or just before sunrise. Start going towards back to Mina now. So the first day we spent in Mina, we already know what Mina is like, but now there's going to be a huge rush of the entire Hajj trying to get back to Mina. So on the first day, you might have gone there on a coach. You might be, people were in different groups. They got there. Everyone got there at their own time. They got to Mina. But this, everybody's going to leave at the same time or similar time. So the rush is going to be not like the first rush. So you might think, oh, we handled it the first day. We're going to get back to Mina. It'll be okay. Yeah, just be prepared. If you think, I'm not saying it's going to go wrong. If you prepare for the worst and things go better, you'll feel better. If you think that it's going to be a walk in the park and then you're going to get frustrated at every other thing, then your Hajj is not going to be a pleasant experience for you. So really, like I said from the start, we need to make sure that we've changed our mindset, we've trained ourselves to have a bit of sabr. Things aren't going to go our way. Things aren't going to go to plan. You might come to your coach in Muzdalifah, or you might say the coach has been taken by some group from Africa, for example, because they somehow got there. And your whole coach is gone, and your group leader said, "Oh, we got to walk in now. We don't have a coach." So you need to be prepared psychologically. Some things like this do happen, and it might happen. I'm not gonna say it is gonna happen, but it might happen. And if you're not prepared for that, then sometimes it can be very frustrating. And some people can't deal with things. It gets very stressful. Things don't go according to plan. So be prepared for that from the start, inshallah. So now we're gonna go. We're gonna leave for Mina in the morning, preferably a few minutes before sunrise. And there's the order that we need to do the next following steps. If you remember this word, pass, PASS. If you've been to other workshops, also they might have said something similar. Pass. What we mean by that, this is the order of what we're going to do next. P, pelting. AS, animal sacrifice. And the last S, shaving the head or cutting the hair. So, upon reaching Mina, the first thing we need to do is pelting. What do we need to pelt? This first pelting that we do for the 10th of Dhul Hijjah is only the big Jamara, Jamarat al-Aqaba, not the other two. Only 7 stones, only the big Jamara. Now the system is such that you won't make your way to the other tunnels. They have one-way system. They have everything. The other places will be barricaded off. The army there will be to support you. You'll be going there. Everything will be signposted. You're going to go to Jamratul Aqaba, which is known as the big Jamara. Remember now over here, this is not actual shaitan. Iblis or shaitan is not standing there. It's a signifying Ibrahim alayhi salam pelting shaitan. So many people, they think, what, shaitan has made me do so many wrong things in my life, and they start taking their slippers and shoes up, they get umbrellas and they throw anything and everything. You might have seen videos on the internet also of people doing all sorts, trying to, take out their anger. This is just a wall. Yeah, it's just a wall. That wall has got a funnel. That funnel goes down to the actual pillar of the Jamra Aqaba. That's where the stones fall. So you might be on the 4th, 5th level. That's been funneled down. Stones are falling down onto the Jamra. But Iblis is not standing there. Yeah, Shaitan is not standing there physically in the cement of that wall. You're exerting all your anger on there. So remember, this just a lot of Hajj is symbolic. Yeah, symbolic. And what is a symbol? What is this right? It's symbolizing how Ibrahim alayhi salam stood on this spot and cast out Shaitan using some pebbles. And Allah has made that a act of worship for us. We're just copying Ibrahim alayhi salam. Nothing else is happening. But this is an important rite of Hajj. One of the things we do in Hajj. So 7 stones, you hold it with your index and your thumb. Yeah, so you don't need to get a big rock. There's a small pebble that fits between your thumb and your index finger, and just pelt it onto the. Nowadays it's a big wall, so you don't think about you're gonna miss unless you're like just try and get it onto the actual wall. But you remember, say Bismillah Allahu Akbar on each stone, each pebble that you throw. So you get your stone, you might have a little stone bag or wherever you have your stones, your pebbles that you collected. Get one, Bismillah Allahu Akbar, throw it. Get another one, Bismillah Allahu Akbar, throw it. 7 pebbles we are going to pelt onto this wall, and we have done the P. So now we need the ASS left. What is AS? The next thing now, animal sacrifice. So try and get this done as soon as possible, the pelting, so that if, for example, you paid someone else or your group leader to facilitate your animal sacrifice, it's not done before you've done your pelting. Yeah, that's very important that the order of these 3 things have to be done in order. So if you try and get your pelting done as soon as possible, thereafter, then the animal sacrifice will take place. Depending on how you're doing that, you might get a notification. Your group leader might have already told you about that if you had a seminar with them, or your group leader, when you get there, will explain that to you. Or you might also know of other agencies, or you might decide you and a couple of young people or whoever, a group of you might get together and say, you know what, our camp is quite close to the slaughterhouse, let's go ourselves. If you've got the energy and time to do that, you might want to go yourself. Pick your animal, get the guy to slaughter. You've seen yourself slaughtered now. You know it's time for your shaving to be done for your head. Remember, so number 1, P, pelting. Number 2, animal sacrifice. And lastly, the remaining S, shaving of the head. Once we've done that, so we are now permitted to exit ihram. Once we've shaved our head, we are now permitted to exit ihram. And the last thing that remains now, starting from this day, is to do the tawaf. Tawaf al-ifada or tawaf al-ziyara. Both, you might have heard of both names. They both mean the same thing. This is a tawaf of Hajj, tawaf al-ifada, also called tawaf al-ziyara. This is going to be done after you've done, Now, sometimes Based on certain scenarios, some people might need to do this before pass, then they will have to do it in the state of ihram. Say, for example, a woman is on her menses, or she's about to start her menses very soon. She knows she needs to get this tawaf done, because if her menses start, then she won't be able to go to do a tawaf. It doesn't matter if she does the pass later. Main thing is get that tawaf done. So you might want to go with your spouse, for example, to get that tawaf done and also your sa'i done. Then that's fine. You can do that before. But the thing you can't change is the order of the pass. You can do your tawaf before, but you can't do, for example, shave your head first and then do your pelting, or slaughter the animal and then do the pelting and then go and cut your hair. That can't change. The only thing that can change is for certain scenarios, you might want to bring the tawaf earlier. In that scenario, you'll be doing your tawaf al-ziyarah or your tawaf al-ifada in the state of ihram. Otherwise, you will not be in ihram. Most likely, you might want to shower, freshen up after you cut your hair, and then go for your tawaf al-ziyarah. Now, tawaf al-ziyarah can be performed anytime. Doesn't have to be done on this day. Anytime on the 10th, 11th, or 12th. You've got these 3 days of Hajj remaining. So the current day you're in the 10th day, and the remaining 2 days after that to perform this. So say, for example, for whatever reason you can't, you want to do it the next day, you can do it the next day. It's fine. Yeah. But some people prefer just to get it done, so that the key rites of Hajj are done, and then whatever else we need to do, we can focus on getting the final rites of Hajj left. So really, 10th Dhul Hijjah, we came after sunrise from Muzdalifah to Mina. We got back to our tent, maybe get settled down, and we went straight to do our pelting. We got our animal sacrifice done. We cut our hair, freshened up, and then maybe from there you might want to then start making your way toward Makkah to do to Masjid al-Haram. You might want to rest, for example, have a little nap after you paid your salah, and then after, maybe when it's a bit cooler, easier to walk around, then go. But remember, the more as we go along, this one day, the crowds are still going to be going towards Makkah, and coming back from Makkah is going to be very busy. Most people on this day walk it from Makkah to from Mina to their hotel in Azizia, for example. From Azizia, they might catch a shuttle bus or a coach to get to Masjid al-Haram to do their tawaf, or they might just walk it all the way. Yeah, so Mina is the closest from all the places to Makkah, so it is the easiest to walk. Obviously, the walking time will be based on how busy the crowds are. But if that's something that you want to do, you can do that. In terms of when you can do the pelting can be done anytime, but preferably to be done before sunset. Yeah. So even if you want to, the person arranging your animal sacrifice, if you're not doing yourself, has said to you, let me know when to do the sacrifice. We'll do it after you've done your pelting, for example. If they say that to you, you might decide that, you know what, I am very tired. I've got no energy left. I need to have a little nap, half an hour nap, or I'll go little bit later to do the pelting. You can do that. Yeah. You can delay all of this, but it has to be done. Remember, try and prefer to get all this done before sunset, just for the sake of all the other rites that you need to do in the following days also, and also how busy it might get in Masjid al-Haram when you're trying to get there for your tawaf ziyarah. When you do your pelting, all 7 stones should hit the large wall of the Jamra Aqaba. And it's sunnah throughout Hajj to make dua after pelting is done. So whether there is this pelting, or whether it's the following 2 days, whatever pelting that we're going to do, and we talk about that on the next slide, it's sunnah that after pelting you do dua. Yeah, don't just come all the way back and think, I want to do my animal sacrifice, I want to cut my hair. Remember, it's still Hajj. I know you're doing things now, you want to get out of Ihram, for example, but do spend a little while there. You could be there, you could be whilst you're walking, you can do dua, you could be there at the actual Jamara, but it's sunnah after you've done your pelting to do a dua. Yeah. So remember, the key theme we find over here in Hajj is dua. Yeah, and dua is something so amazing. Rasulullah said, "Ad-dua silahul mu'min." Dua is a weapon of a believer. Ad-dua mukhul ibadah. Dua is the essence of worship. So it's really, really trying to, like, why did I say at the beginning? One of the intentions of Hajj is reconnecting to our Maker. First, talk to it. It doesn't have to be in Arabic. Your dua can be in any language. You don't even have to utter those words. You could be just, through your heart, through your thoughts, you're having a conversation with Allah. Talk to Allah. Allah knows us. Allah really likes us, that we talk to Him, we ask Him. That's what Allah wants us to do. And so that is the key theme of Hajj. Dua, 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 dua. So even here, you pelted the stones onto the Jamrah, do dua again. Do as much dua as you can, inshallah. And thereafter, it's sunnah, like we said, to do dua after the pelting. And then this night, we are going to spend also in Mina. So once we've done our pelting, animal sacrifice, we've cut our hair, we've exited Ihram, we may have also done our tawaf. If we didn't do our sa'i of Hajj already, we're going to do our sa'i of Hajj with that tawaf. After that, we might come back to Mina very late, or we might come back to Mina early, depending on how our schedule is. But this night, we're going to spend again in the tents of Mina. According to the Hanafi madhab, if for example there's some scenario where you can't spend your time in Mina and you decide to spend the night in Azizia or in Makkah or anywhere else, your Hajj is still done. It is Sunnah according to the Hanafi madhab to spend this night in Mina. However, according to the other three madhahib, the Shafi'i madhab, the Maliki madhab, and the Hanbali madhab, it's wajib. They have to spend that night in Mina. So and also is better. So we should really be spending this night in Mina. Like I said, this is only for emergency scenarios or some very extreme scenario where for whatever reason, circumstance, we can't get back to the tents of Mina. So we managed to spend the night. We've had to spend the night not in Mina. So according to the Hanafi madhab, then it's sunnah to perform that night in Mina. So it's okay. But according to other madhahib, there'll be other laws and rules that will apply. But really, we want to spend this night in Mina, sleep in Mina as well, back in the tent, inshallah. So now that concludes those first 3 days of Hajj, which were possibly the main aspects of Hajj, and also in the state of Ihram. Key difference now, everything we do now as part of the days of Hajj, we don't have to be in Ihram. We might wear our normal clothing, whatever you want, loose sunnah clothing, your jubba, you might want to wear some trainers because you want to walk a bit more. You don't have to wear your flip-flops anymore, for example. But now you have exited the state of Ihram. You spent your night in Mina. Now we have the 11th and 12th, 4th and 5th day of Hajj. And both days you do exactly the same thing. So first of all, like we said, it's sunnah to stay in Mina. But if you're followers of the Hanafi madhab and you need to, for a scenario, you can stay in a hotel in Makkah, Azizia or Qudaya, etc. But if you do, then you have to come back to Mina. Remember that, yeah? So you have to come back to do the pelting. The pelting on these 2 days can be done any time after Dhuhr Salah. So really, you want to wake up, have some breakfast, rest, pray some Quran, do some dua, freshen up, pray of Dhuhr Salah with Jama'ah. As soon as the Dhuhr Salah is performed, now all the way up till sunset, we've got to try and get the pelting done. Yeah. So it is permissible to do after sunset as well, but it's sunnah to get it done before sunset, but it has to be done after Dhuhr Salah. So after Dhuhr Salah, you're going to go, and these 2 days, you're going to not just only pelt the big one, you're going to pelt all 3 of the Jamarat. Yeah. So after the first 2 Jamarat that you do, it's sunnah to face the Qibla and make dua, and then you go and do your 3rd Jamarat. So remember we said pelting is sunnah to do dua. On these 2 days, you can get the first pelting and the second pelting done, and then do your dua. So for example, if you, for example, stop and make dua, and it's not you can't make dua, but that sunnah dua which the Prophet made after pelting on these 2 days, he did it between the second and the third. So he did the first and second, made some dua, and then he did the third pelting. Yeah, and they don't have to be like all in one go. You might take if there's an area where the police permit you to sit down and have a little break, you don't want to sit down, stretch your legs out before you go to the next one. But you remember, the most likely in these tunnels, etc., they won't let you, because that is what causes stampedes, blocks paths, etc. Please do comply with them. They do try to make Hajj easy for us. Don't so if they're telling you to do something, just do what they're telling you to do. You don't want to get on the wrong side of them, especially not in Hajj. So if they say you cannot sit here, you're really tired, just ask them, look, I'm really tired, is there anywhere where I can just sit for 5 minutes? They'll tell you. It's better you ask them and you think, no, I'm going to sit, I'm tired, and then the things go pear-shaped in the opposite way. So really, you try and do this as quickly as possible. And other than that, the only thing that you need to do now is perform your salah. Yeah, 4th and 5th, the 11th and 12th of Dhul Hijjah. The only thing that we need to do is after Dhuhr, pelt all 3 of the Jamarat and perform your salah with Jama'ah. And once you've done that, then you've done your 5 days of Hajj. Now, most people after that, on the 12th of Dhul Hijjah, will return and leave Mina. And that will be the end of Hajj. Now, remember, if, say, for example, before we move on to the 13th of Dhul Hijjah, what we want to do on the 13th, say, for example, you lost half of your pebbles while you're doing your animal sacrifice, or you're cutting your hair, you're going to Makkah to do Tawaf Ziyarah, you misplaced them. What do? You need to go all the way back to Muzdalifah to get them? No. You can get your pebbles anywhere in Mina, as long as you're not picking them up, you're not picking up any pebbles from around the Jamara. So if you're at the place where that, say for example, that's the wall, and this whole area is where people do pelting, and I see some pebbles over there, most likely that might be where someone from far tried to throw it and they missed. So that was a pelting that they did, but they missed. That means they missed the actual jamara. So you cannot pick up that because that was actually thrown as part of pelting. So the only place, only like I said at the start, the only two types of pebbles you cannot throw or pick up if you lose your pebbles is number one, those that have already been thrown at the jamara, and number two, if you find any pebbles around washroom areas. Yeah, because normally places around toilets are impure, not clean. There's a possibility that there might be some impurity on that. So that's the only other type of pebbles that you cannot take. Other than that, you see some small pebbles on the ground, you think, I've lost some pebbles, I need to get some more. You're allowed to take some more pebbles, that's completely fine. Yeah. So remember, the minimum we want to take is 49, 7 for the first day, and then for the 11th and 12th, 7 for each pillar, both days. I need 7 pebbles for each pillar, and that makes 49. If you're going to stay longer for the 13th also, then you might want to take 70, but it's always better to get extra just in case. Okay, so now we're moving on to what you need to do if you stay on the 13th of Dhul Hijjah. Is there anything left of my Hajj? So, if you are still in Mina and Fajr time starts on the 13th, then you have to stay that day and do the pelting. So, say for example, you decided as a group or as a family, we're tired, we're already in Mina, we're just going to stay the night in Mina. And then before Fajr, we'll leave and we'll leave Mina, we'll go to Makkah. Then that's fine, you don't need to do any pelting. However, if you wake up and the beginning time of Fajr has started, Subh Sadiq has started, Fajr time has started, so you're in Mina at the time of Fajr, then that day also you need to do some pelting now. And it's actually a really good opportunity to spend time in Mina where it's much more quieter. Many of the pious people and the ulama, they let all the crowds leave Mina and they stay in 13th and they spend some good moments in Mina. Much more quieter, easy to commute around. You can get some more pelting done. But again, the only thing is that on this day, on the 13th, yes, if you remember on the 11th and 12th, pelting was only done after Dhuhr. If you stay on the 13th, the pelting can only be done before Dhuhr. So after you pray your Fajr Salah, sunrise has happened, you go and do your pelting. As long as you're pelting, for all 3 Jamarat have to be pelted. All 3 Jamarat have to be pelted, but it has to be done before the Dhuhr time starts. So not before you pray your Dhuhr, before the starting of Dhuhr time. Yeah? So we need to make sure that we can stay in Mina still, we can still be in Mina at Dhuhr time, but the pelting has to be done before Zawal kicks in, before the time of Dhuhr starts. Now, if you remember, I told you last week, an easy way to know the beginning times in Hajj is that the Nusuk app that you're going to get to go to the Rawdah in Medina, that has got all the Salah times on there, at the beginning time. That's the time normally where they give the Adhan there anyway. So if you need to know what time is Zawal, so I've done my pelting, you'll find that on the Nusuk app anyway. But there may be signposts and boards around that will have the times of Salah anyway also. But remember that the pelting has to be done before Dhuhr on this last day. What remains now for my Hajj? So, say for example, I didn't stay on the 13th, or I did stay on the 13th. There's only one thing left, and that is the farewell tawaf. Yeah, the farewell tawaf. This is normally done the last thing before you leave Mecca. So, if you, for example, went Medina first, then did Hajj, most likely from there you're going to go to Jeddah airport and then come back from Hajj. So that before you go, the last thing you're going to do before Makkah, it doesn't have to be exactly last thing like just before you check out of your hotel, but one of the last things. Yeah, we'll try and delay this as much as possible, but you need to do Tawaf al-Wada. Al-Wada means farewell. And in Umrah, when you go for an Umrah journey, normally it's recommended, it's mustahab to also do this, do an extra Tawaf as your final Tawaf, saying farewell to the Kaaba and the house of Allah. But when it comes to Hajj, it's a necessary part of Hajj, and you need to do that. The only people that are excused is if a woman's menses have started, then as long as she's done her tawaf of Hajj, which was the tawaf of ziyarah or tawaf al-ifada, she doesn't need to do this. That's the only people that are excused. Yeah. So if a woman's period has started, she doesn't need to go and do tawaf al-wada. She doesn't need to come back to perform it later. It's it's done. She doesn't need to do that. Otherwise, it's the last rite of Hajj really, and should be done the last thing before departing Mecca, and can be performed any time after Tawaf al-Ziyarah and Sa'i. So say for example, you are only in Mecca for one more day on the 13th, you're actually leaving on the 13th for example. then you need to make sure that you've done your tawaf or ziyarah separately beforehand. You've done your sa'i of Hajj also, then you do this tawaf. Yeah. So if you had delayed your sa'i of Hajj right till the end, yeah, then you need to make sure that after that sa'i, you still have time to perform this last tawaf. If anything I've mentioned right now is slightly difficult to understand or you want some more clarity, do post it as a question and I'll go through that at the end in the question and answer, inshallah. So this is the last necessary rite of Hajj, the farewell tawaf. Should be done last thing before departing Mecca. Can be done any time after the tawaf or ziyarah and sa'i. And this necessity is dropped for women on their menses. She does not have to make up for it. So this was a overview of a slightly detailed look at what you're actually going to do. Try to make it as easy as possible, as simple as possible in simple terms as to what you need to do for Hajj. Summarize all of what we talked about for the past hour or so is on the slide over here, the 5 days of Hajj. You'll find this slide. I've put this, I thought it might be a good idea for you to have this always at hand. So I have put this in the booklet also for you, just in case something happens and you get mixed up of what I need to do. But hopefully, mashallah, you've got all amazing memories and you've all understood really well. And you probably attended some other workshops as well. But this is a summary of what Hajj is about. So the eighth was done where? In the tents of Mina. We entered Ihram in Makkah, went to Mina, Dhuhr to Isha in Makkah, in Mina. We settled in a tent, we rested, overnight stay, prayed Fajr in Mina. That was the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. Then we had the day of Arafah. After Fajr, in the morning, we went to Arafat, we did our wukuf, made dua, we made sure we did that standing and that wukuf and that dua in Arafah. From Dhuhr to sunset is a timing for that. Thereafter, we leave Muzdalifah for Muzdalifah after sunset, but we don't pray our Maghrib Salah. We get to Muzdalifah. In Isha time, we pray our Maghrib and Salah together. There will only be one adhan and iqamah. In Muzdalifah, we're going to collect a minimum of 49 pebbles. If we're staying on the 13th, also then 70 pebbles minimum. And also, we're going to get that overnight stay under the stars that we talked about in Muzdalifah. Then comes the day of Eid, which for Hajj is called Yawmun Nahr, the day of sacrifice. We start that day off in the morning in Muzdalifah with that wukuf after Fajr before sunrise. We make our way to Mina, we do pass. So we're pelting 7 stones on Jamra Aqaba, the largest Jamra. Thereafter, we do our animal sacrifice, we cut our hair, we exit Ihram. We also perform our Tawaf al-Ziyarah or Tawaf al-Ifada and the Sa'i of Hajj. We talked about what Sa'i is last week and how that happens. It'll be the exact same for Umrah as for Hajj. And lastly, then we have the 11th, 12th, and also possibly the 13th, where 2 things. If you haven't done your Tawaf al-Ziyarah yet, you can do that first. And then on the 11th and 12th, after Zuhr, you need to do your pelting of all 3 Jamarat. On the last day, however, if you're staying on the 13th, before Zuhr, all 3 Jamarat, and we end our Hajj with Tawaf al-Wada', and that in a nutshell is the journey of Hajj, the rites of Hajj, and what we need to do for this pilgrimage really in terms of the arkan and what Hajj is about. Now, normally I put all things to do with visas and logistics and anything else. I normally put all of those things at the end of the workshop. But just for this one, before we move on to the next stage, which is a recap of what we talked about in Medina, for the benefit of those that maybe didn't come last week or want to refresh about Medina, before we do that, this year, the Hajj, Ministry of Hajj and Umrah, they are introducing something new for all pilgrims. So as you might have noticed, the past few years, they're really restricting who can do Hajj, and they're also restricting that Hajj can only be done if you have a permit. So now they're actually going to give you something physical that will be your permit of Hajj, and that is the Nusuk card. So the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah will give you a Nusuk card that will have your photo, a QR code. It'll be like an ID card that'll come with a lanyard. So you'll get that. They have done this for security purposes, to prevent forgery, for ID purposes. That will have the details of your group, your accommodation, everything will be on that card for you. So if you get lost, something happens, anyone finds you, they can use your card to help you get where you need to get to. For example, say for example, you lost your group, there's a army official or a police officer or one of the, you have a lot of people that help out in Hajj, one of the workers there, they can scan the QR code and tell you exactly where you need to go, where your group needs to be, etc. Any other information that you need, contact details, anything else. So this, you need to make sure you carry it with you throughout the days of Hajj. Yeah, not sure if you're going to need it before Hajj in Makkah also when you get there, but you will get that. Where to get that? So you will get that upon arrival through your service company. So if you're going through Al Bayt, or you're going through is it Abdul the Jamil Group, or Duyuful Bayt, the Al Bayt guest, whichever group is facilitating your Hajj company on Nusuk, they will have those cards for you. When you get to Saudi Arabia, they will be making sure that you get that. So don't worry about, you need to figure out, oh, where am I going to go to get this card. They will give that to you. You also can have a digital card, and that will be on the Nusuk app. So you probably get your Nusuk app once you put your Hajj details on there. I'm not sure if Nusuk app Hajj has been open to England people yet, because before, the Hajj section on the Nusuk app was only for the Arab states. Hence, when you realize when you're trying to book your Hajj, you have to go on the website, get the OTP code, and all of that headache that you went through. But they are advertising that the Nusuk card is accessible via the Nusuk app. So you might actually get it on the app also. I'm not sure exactly if it's available yet, or will it be for the days of Hajj. So that's really what they are advertising, expecting you to have. What do you do if you lose your card? Because they've said you have to keep your card with you. If you don't, they might think you're someone trying to do illegally get into and perform Hajj. So what do you do if you lose your card? They have given these instructions. Number one, notify your group leader immediately, and report that loss to the nearest security officer, or you can get help through calling 1966. Or they are across the sites of Hajj, they have their Nusuk Inaya, the support centers near the Haram. You can go to their booths over there, and say, you know what, I've lost my card, this is my visa, this is my details, I need a new card, for example. Yeah, so they can create a new card for you. That basically, in a nutshell, is all what we're going to talk about in terms of Hajj. We'll do all the questions at the end. Once we've talked about Medina, we'll very quickly go over visiting Medina again. So, like we said last week, make sure, if you haven't already, the app for Hajj for Umrah was the Dhikr and Dua app from Ummah Welfare Trust. The app for Medina that you want to have, make sure you've got your Medina Companion, the FCPM app. We've got a whole section on there for Medina. When you're going for Salat and Salam to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, everything that you want to read, all the different du'as for Medina, etc., is on there. It'll be very useful, inshallah. So if you haven't already, I've also put the QR codes for that in your booklets. So we are traveling to visit the grave of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his masjid, his city. These were the three intentions that we made. Each has its own virtues and benefits. Visiting the grave of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has its own rewards and benefits. Visiting his masjid has its own rewards and benefits. And also the city of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is also very blessed and has a lot of virtues and benefits. We have a very unique spiritual connection there. We're going to get forgiven by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala through the intercession of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And throughout our Hajj, every moment was precious. Also in Medina, every moment is precious. We want to travel with some enthusiasm and motivation. Now, in Hajj, unfortunately, the way the Hajj packages are, you might only get a couple of days in Medina. Some people might only get 1 or 2 days in Medina. But really, don't lose out on Medina Munawwara. That is a key highlight of your journey there also. Yeah. And so all of these things we talked about last week about spending on the people of Medina. Yeah, whatever you spend on the people of Medina, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala makes that a means of barakah, blessings in our wealth. That money is given back to us by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. We want to try and ensure through our Hajj journey, but especially in Medina also, we are dressed in Sunnah, we are following the Sunnah, we are engaged in trying to make the most of our place, our time there. So we are going in front of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Allah told us in the Quran, ولو أنهم إذ ظلموا أنفسهم جاءوك فاستغفروا الله واستغفر لهم الرسول لوجدوا الله توابا رحيما. If they had wronged themselves by committing sins, and then they came to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they asked Allah to forgive them, and Rasulullah also made dua for them, for Allah to forgive them. لوجدوا الله توابا رحيما. They would find Allah most forgiving, most accepting of repentance. So Hajj is for us to get forgiven, but also being in the presence of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, for him to intercede and make dua for us, is a big thing, also the greatest thing that we can get. So we want to try and make sure we make the most of our time in Medina. Main thing there, we're going to give salat and salam to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Like we mentioned last week, Masjid Nabawi is a very beautiful place, amazing architecture, beautiful decorations, calligraphy, etc., chandeliers, umbrellas, the whole works. It can be very nice to look at. When you're going for salat and salam to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, don't get distracted by all of that. Let's try and lower our gaze and maybe have our FCPM app ready. We prayed all of our salat and salam, so that when we get those 30 seconds or 20 seconds or 1 minute, because remember, they're going to keep the crowd moving. They're not going to let you stand there. So you're only going to get a brief moment directly in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the large circle signifies that we are directly in front of the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his grave. And remember, you don't have to be here to give your salat and salam. Salat and salam and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam can be given anywhere around Medina, anywhere around Masjid Nabawi. You might stand outside the Green Dome or at the entrances of Masjid Nabawi or anywhere you can see the masjid, especially for sisters because they don't get to come to the front side of the grave. You can only access it from the rear side. And as mentioned last week, after Isha Salah till 2 a.m., the whole middle of the masjid is closed for males. They take all the males out, and the sisters are able to come in, and they can go all the way right to just behind the Rawda area. So for brothers, how do we go and give salat and salam to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? If you've been before, it's not the same way anymore. If you haven't been in the past 2-3 years, then you won't know this is the new route that you need to take. You need to go outside the Green Dome to the front of the masjid, and where this block of car parks and toilets and wudu area is over here, you will enter from in front of that. So just behind that, and you then have to follow the yellow arrow, go all the way around, follow the barriers, go all the way around again until you get to under the only Ottoman minaret remaining, until you get to Bab al-Salam, which is gate number 1, and that's when you will enter into Masjid Nabawi to give salam on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you'll enter from gate number 1, which looks like that, Bab al-Salam. So even here, many people you see them, they started saying the salam from here already. Yeah, you might take your salat and salam card or your out, pray your salat and salam until you get to in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and thereafter you're going to be there directly in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Really, as a moment for you to have that heart-to-heart moment with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in front of his grave. So with the lowered head, your tears might be flowing, your heart will be beating, and you'll be there. You're actually there in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thereafter, you have the graves of Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. So you also give salam to both of them. But like I said, this will be very rushed. Yeah, these 3 spots you'll be moving. Yeah, even if you try to stand, try to spend some moments there. Generally, they're going to keep the crowd moving. They might even shout at you to get you moving. So please, make sure you're prepared for that. This is what it looks like. The first 2 holes, if you've never been before, the first 2 holes don't signify anything. The middle hole, the large circle, is where you're directly in front of the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thereafter, we have the graves of Abu Bakr and Umar, and the remaining 2 also don't signify anything. Thereafter, we have this is the region where on the map. I put this map also in your booklet of Masjid Nabawi. This is the region where you need to go to try and get into Bab al-Salam to give salat and salam. So if your hotels are on the northern courtyard side, closer to the cistern entrance where most people try to stay, then you might need to either walk through the masjid or walk around the masjid so you can get to the front area there. The next thing is talking about the Rawda and the virtues. So one prayer in Masjid Nabawi, like we said last week, is more than 1,000 salah anywhere else, and just less than 100,000, because 100,000 is for Masjid Nabawi, so Masjid al-Haram. So one salah in Masjid Nabawi, you can get reward anything between 1,000 to 99,999 rewards. Subhanallah. And then you pay that with Jama'ah, times that by 25 or 27 as well. So this is an amazing virtue of Masjid Nabawi. Also the Rawda, which we want to have the nusuk up to make that booking. I'm not sure in Hajj season how that's going to work yet. But the area in the Rawda is the area between, the Prophet said, whoever is between my mimbar, my pulpit, and my house is a garden from the gardens of paradise. We talked about last week how that's the means and the reason for why we feel the amazing peace and tranquility in Medina, because it is actually heaven on earth. And Rasulullah said, whoever visits my grave after my death is like the one who visited me in my lifetime. If you've never been before, this is what the Rawda looks like. So you have there the pulpit from where the Imam gives the khutbah, the sermon. You have the mihrab where the Imam leads the salah, and you have all these pillars, and the dark green mesh wall you see at the back. That is the side or wall of the tomb of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, closest to his head side. So if you get to sit over there, you'll be very close to the blessed head of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is what the Rawda looks like. So the green circle on the left hand side, on the right hand side, sorry, that is the green dome. Green dome sits directly above the 3 graves of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sorry, we're gonna a bit forward. And we have the pillars. Each pillar we talked about last week, how each pillar, what they signify. The key one I'm going to highlight is the Ustuwana Aisha. Aisha radiallahu anha said, if you knew the virtue of praying over there, you would fight each other to pray there. So don't go fight there. The purpose is to tell you how important it is. And another pillar you might want to really know about is Ustuwana al-Hannana, which is basically, if you go back to this image over here, if you look, there's like a pyramid shape on top of where the Imam leads Salah. Directly behind that is actually a pillar. That pillar is called Ustuwana al-Hannana. That is where the bark of the tree was, that cried out of separation from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when the pulpit was built and he no longer used to sit and lean on that. Also, this diagram over here, I have also put this in your booklet. So when you, if you get to go to in the Rawda, you want to, if you're able to really figure out where to go, this is how the pillars are located. Other than that, it's no, now when you come to the Rawda, where you see the platform of the Adhan, where the Muaddin gives Adhan from, that is only partially in part of the Rawda. So some people start praying Salah there, they think they're in the Rawda, but they're actually out of the boundary of the Rawda. Yeah, so if you're in the Rawda and you're praying there, and then you've left the Rawda, you've not actually prayed in the Rawda. So be careful of that. If you really want to pray in the Rawda area, you're actually in the boundary of the Rawda area. In terms of booking the slots, you need the Nusuk app. You need to make sure you go beforehand. You only get 30-minute slots. Sometimes you might only get less than that. But if you want to be smart about it, like we talked about last week, how to do that, try and book it around the Salah time, either just before Salah time or at Salah time. So if you get Adhan in the Rawda, then no one's going to take you out. You're going to get to pray the Salah with Jama'ah in the Rawda. You're going to get much more time. So last year when I went in Ramadan, for example, my time was between Maghrib and Isha. I went straight after Maghrib, after we had our iftar, and I managed to, Alhamdulillah, Allah blessed me with having the Isha Adhan, Isha Salah, Tarawih Salah, Witr Salah. So we were there for 2.5 hours in the road, Alhamdulillah. So it's not about, obviously it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's also about, if you be smart about the booking and you're able to do that, then that can give you a chance to spend some more time. But they also now have another thing there. If you're in Masjid Nabawi, so in the actual Masjid Nabawi, you might not work in your hotel, you might have to be in the masjid area, and your location setting is on your app. You've given permission for the app to use and access your location settings on your phone. Then you can do something called instant access. That means every 20 minutes they may release slots that there's some availability. You can go today or tomorrow, for example. So that is only visible to people who's got location settings on their phone, and they open the app, the Nusuk app, maybe when they go for after Salatul Salam, or they go there for Salah, they just check, oh, okay, there's an availability, and go tonight again. So you might get to go more than once. Obviously, Hajj time, you got to remember, it is very busy. But you might, while you're there, utilize that moment, make dua to Allah. Allah, you brought me here to Medina, bring me again and again. Let me come back for Umrah. Let me come back for Umrah every year. Let me do more than one Umrah. Let me bring my family. Let me bring my friends. Let me spend as much time as I can. Keep calling me here so that you can maximize your time benefiting from Medina. Because if you remember the hadith I'm going to put on the slide shortly, before I do that, how to get to the Rawda area, where the green dome is, the area that I've circled over here, you need to go over there. That's where you line up, show your QR code, your pass. You will need internet connection for that, for the person to scan your QR code on your app, which is why we talked about last week, maybe having an eSIM. So this is where a map of Masjid Nabawi you've got in your booklets. This is where you need to go for the Rawda area. If you're lost or you need to ask anyone, there will be people that work there with their orange or red waistcoats, and they will be able to guide you and help you get you towards the Rawda. But also on the ground, you'll see these red markings. These red markings show you you're in the correct place to line up for the Rawda area. So they might have a separate line for wheelchair users, separate line for group bookings, and separate lines for other bookings also. But the hadith I was talking about, which inshallah you're going to make dua there, that Allah brings you to Medina again, so you can spend a minimum of 8 to 9 days in Medina. So you get to perform 40 salahs one after another, 8 full days. Because if you get to do that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever performs 40 salah in my masjid, not missing one salah in the masjid, for him is granted exemption from the fire of hell, and exemption from the punishment, and he shall remain free of hypocrisy. So subhanAllah, this is an amazing opportunity for us to get that. Everywhere else in the world, the same virtue applies for those people who pray for 40 full days, 5 times salah, with takbir tahrima, with the imam in the masjid. So you might not be able to do that for 40 full days in a row. You might find that difficult to get every salah, 5 times salah, with the first takbir, with the imam. You can do that, try and do that inshallah. But if you can't, if you got to go Medina, 8 full days, 5 times salah. And in this, if you look at in this hadith, there's no mention, There's no mention of takbir tahrima. As long as you pray in the masjid with jama'ah, 4 salah, 8 full days, you can get the same virtue, inshallah. Okay, so now moving on to, I'm gonna just put this again one more time. أتينا لدار النبي الكريم وشوق الفؤاد إليها عظيم طوبى لكم أنتم أهلها بهذا المقام وهذا النعيم بأرض المدينة صحب كرام ففعلوا وضحوا لكي لا نهيم وما بين منبره سيدي ومسكنه روضة من نعيم فيا أهل طيبة تكونوا بها على نهج أسلافنا المستقيم وعظم أخي دائما شأنها ففي أرضها خير جسم ففي أرضها خير جسم يقيم. In the land of Medina Munawwara, في أرضها خير جسم يقيم, the best of bodies resides sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So really we want to make sure that we're respectful of what we're doing in Medina, how we spend our time in Medina. I told you last week the story of Imam Malik, of how he used to respect Medina. So whatever you can do, what's in your capacity to really respect the land of Medina, ensuring that we don't do anything to disrespect the land we're walking on, because beneath that land resides best of body sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when we're in Medina, make sure we don't waste our time. Like I said, this is not a holiday. Every moment here is also precious. Nowadays, online on TikTok and Instagram, you might have seen many videos on social media of these different cafes and this place, the new food places and steak places and camel meat places and this shop and this area and this this place, this thing to do. Remember, in Hajj time, you're only getting 1 or 2 days in Medina, maybe 3, maybe depending on your package. Yeah. So if you go for Umrah, you got more time, you maximize your time in Medina, and then you get to do other things. That might be better. But really, when you're there for Hajj, you're there for a very short time. Spend most of your time in and around the masjid. Spend most of your time in and around the Rawdah, in and around the Green Dome, in and around the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's grave, and try and pray whatever time you have there, all of your salahs with Jama'ah, inshallah. Like I said, I don't think you'll have the time in Hajj time to go and visit all of the different ziyarah places. If you do have time, you can go. If for example, you've got time to do that, you can. But if you, at the least, make sure you try and visit Jannatul Baqi. For males, it's open. For females, they don't get to go inside the graveyard. But it opens straight after Fajr Salah and after Asr Salah. These are the 2 times it's open. So between Fajr, sunrise till the morning, it's open, and between Asr and Maghrib. Best time to go normally after Fajr Salah. Go to Baqi. Now, unfortunately, now you don't get to go to visit all the different graves. You might just be walking through the graveyard, but really go there. Many Sahaba are buried there. The family of the Prophet ﷺ is buried there, and also, Subhanallah, there's many great scholars, and whoever gets to be buried there, everybody's heart's wish is that we die in Medina, we be buried there. So go and make some du'a over there in the graveyard of Baqi also. And the other thing, if you can, try and go to Masjid Quba. If you can't go to all the other places, try and go to Masjid Quba. If you can perform 2 rakats in Masjid Quba, you get the reward of an accepted Umrah. So another additional virtue of that also. Last thing, as I mentioned last week, you need to make sure you've done your meningitis. This was the list I had from last year of the pharmacies. If you haven't already, maybe a good idea to make sure you've got your meningitis vaccine done. These were the websites. I've put this also in your booklet on the last page. So you've got all the useful websites there. And these are all the apps that I mentioned last week also, useful apps that you need. In terms of getting internet connection, for those that didn't come last week, it might be a good idea to look into whether your phone has accessibility for eSIM. Try and get eSIM. This is one I've used in many countries. There's other ones as well, but this one is the one that I've found with no problems. The other one, which is slightly cheaper, Musafir, although you might get cheaper packages, like I mentioned last week, they only give you the maximum bandwidth in the first 2 days. After that, they give you a very minimal bandwidth. So you do get connection, but it's like having no connection. Really, it's good for Hajj so that you don't use your phone so much. But if you're in an emergency or you're trying to download your QR code, for example, in Medina, and you decided to only open the app when you're in the queue out there, it's going to take a long time for that to load. Yeah. So talking about Medina, the QR code, might be a good idea to just preload it on your phone, just in case the connection, something happens, so that you know it's there. But a benefit of an eSIM is you don't have to take out your SIM and look after your original SIM from England and then get another SIM, etc. And you're not depending on trying to find Wi-Fi, etc. Now, inshallah, we'll go through the Q&A of all the questions in the booklet. But feel free. There are refreshments. There's tea and coffee also in both halls. There's also some sandwiches coming around. So do eat some, take some, unless you're fasting. But try and, inshallah, get ready to in Hajj also things like this will happen. Someone will come around with a tray of sandwiches and, it'll give you some energy. So, how so? I know some of you may be feeling a bit tired. Some of the things might be repeated also from last week. Do refresh yourselves while we go through this Q&A, inshallah, and then we'll end this session, inshallah. So, first of all, going to the questions that were posted, which slowly up to see what questions we have. MashaAllah, we've got a couple of questions here. Number one, does wukuf on second day need to be done from a mountain or from our tents? So the wukuf in Arafah, many people like to do it in and around the mountain. You don't have to do it in and around the mountain. You can do it from the tent that your group is staying in Arafah. Yeah. So wukuf and Arafah can be done anywhere. The reason why people like to do it on the mountain, because the mountain is the location, pillar on the mountain, the location where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did his wukuf, and it's known as the mountain of mercy also, which is why some people like to go there. But if you don't have to go there, if you can go near there, it's good because you're close to the key area. That is the center of Arafah also. But your wukuf can be done in your tent. In terms of Muzdalifah, then obviously the Muzdalifah doesn't have that mountain, so that question doesn't apply to wukuf. What du'as can we read in wukuf? The du'as to read in wukuf really make that personal, your personal du'as. Yeah. So like I said, you might have a combination of some sunnah du'as that you read. That du'a list that I put at the beginning of the booklets, even though you might have made them by the Kaaba also when you made your first glance at the Kaaba, you've got categories of du'as to make. I've only made a couple of lines. If you want to make some more, write some more du'as on there, you can, it's your booklet, you can scribble it around them. But really, that will give you an idea of what du'as I need to make or I want to make. So really start thinking, what do I really want from Allah? What do I want Allah, for example, for myself, my personal life, my health, my well-being, my goals and aspirations? What about for my family and friends? Yeah, for my parents, for my spouse, for my children, for my family, for my friends. Then du'as for the ummah. We know what situation the ummah is going through right now. Du'as for the people of Gaza, du'as for the people of Kashmir, people of Yemen, the people of Syria. Everywhere we look in the ummah, Allah Akbar. Allah really alleviate their suffering, Allah protect them. Make du'as for the ummah as much as possible. Du'as for your study and work goals. You might want a promotion, you might want a new job, you're struggling to get a job, or you want to further study, you want to do something. Yeah, so you want to study or anything else, make dua for that. Make dua for your religious needs also, your deen, your religion. Make du'as for your hereafter. You want to, really get into Jannah with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah forgives you, Allah gives you everything. So make as much du'as as possible. What if we pelt more than 7 stones accidentally? As long as you've got backup of stones, then it's fine. Remember, 7 stones is what you need to do. If you do 8, 9, 10, it's not that you're meant to. You've just done it now. You've lost out on your stones really. Yeah. So if you had bought a 7 beat tasbih, for example, for your tawaf and your sa'i, you've got some at the back also. So if you count on here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for your 7 rounds of tawaf and tasbih, and for sa'i, you can use your tawaf tasbih if you're struggling to count to 7 in terms of how much stones you pelted. Yeah. So if that's something that you want to do, yeah, it's a tasbih that you spent £1 to buy, for example. It might be a good idea just so that you make sure you're only doing 7, not 6. You got to make sure it is 7 though. If you do more than 7, then it doesn't mean anything. But it just means that you got less stones in your bag now. Is Tawaf al-Wada performed in Ihram? Is Tawaf al-Wada performed in Ihram, or can it be performed without Ihram? No, it's not performed in Ihram. You will be out of the state of Ihram unless, for example, you decided to still wear the clothing of Ihram because you did your Tawaf al-Ifada, you cut your hair, but you didn't exit Ihram, the clothing of Ihram, and you were leaving Makkah or Mina. You might not get a chance. You want to do your Tawaf al-Wada, you might not get to go Makkah. But really, Tawaf al-Wada is the last thing you're going to do before you leave to leave your Hajj. Do you have to have wudu while it's doing sa'i? No, you don't. Wudu is only needed for tawaf, any tawaf, whether it's tawaf of umrah, tawaf of ziyarah, tawaf al-ifada, tawaf al-wada, any of those tawafs, nafil tawaf, you have to have wudu for tawaf. Yes, I mean, you need to have wudu for tawaf. Do we need wudu while pelting stones? No, you don't need wudu, but it's good to try and stay in the state of wudu as much as possible. Any prescription sunglasses essential for glasses wearers? Are prescription sunglasses, that's obviously a question for an optician. Are prescription sunglasses essential for glasses wearers? many opticians do provide prescription sunglasses. If you are going to be wearing sunglasses and it's not prescription ones, and you're going to struggle to see, your eyesight, it might be a good idea to get a pair. Or you might get those Polaroid ones which you can flip onto the top of your glasses. That's up to you. That's not my area of expertise, so I can't give you anything further than that on that. What is the maximum capacity of Mina, Arafah, and Muzdalifah? How many people can fit? So as many people as they can. It is a large area. On average, Hajj has spanned up to 3-4 million people, possibly more as well, and they have all fitted in that area. So that is the capacity of Mina and Arafat and Muzdalifah. Do the stones need to hit the wall? Yes, they do. Yeah, the stones need to make sure they hit the Jamara. If they fall, don't get to the Jamara, then that's not pelting done. If you threw your first stone and you were so tired that it just fell in front of you, then that doesn't count as you pelted it. You need to make sure that you get your stone onto the actual wall. How do we dispose of extra pebbles? You can just leave them in Mina. So if you're staying the extra day, 13th, you can throw them as part of your pelting, or you can just drop them off wherever they anywhere in Mina, Arafat, Muzdalifah, or you've gone back to Makkah and you realize, oh, I've still got some stones. You can just leave them there if you want. That's up to you what you do with them. Combining Salah and Arafat, is it permissible to combine Dhuhr and Asr, or better not to? So like I said, the combination of Dhuhr and Asr is only if you're doing your Salah in Masjid Namira behind the Imam. Because if you're praying your Salah in your tent, then you performing your Asr Salah in Dhuhr Salah time, that won't be counted. Yeah, it's an exclusive situation for Dhuhr Asr in Masjid Namira, or Maghrib and Isha is the only one where you have to combine. But if you look at that, it's combined in Isha time, so there's no chance of you performing Salah in a time that has time not started yet. Yeah, when Dhuhr and Asr is combined, normally it's combined in the Dhuhr time, so then that won't be the scenario. Hence why, if you do want to combine your Dhuhr and Asr, then do it in Asr time. If you need to, say for example, you're really tired or there's an extreme scenario, you're combining your Dhuhr and Asr, make sure it's in Asr time so that it's not before the time of Asr started. Is it permissible to wear glasses, spectacles? Another question about glasses. Yes, you can wear glasses in Ihram. You can wear contacts. You can wear glasses. You can wear any of those things in Ihram. That's completely fine. Sunglasses, etc. Do we need to pray Qasr Salah if I'm in Makkah for less than 14 days? Yes, if you are a Musafir, you're going to be in Makkah for less than 14 days. Now, there's two opinions on this. Classically, Mina, Muzdalifah, Arafat was counted as separate towns and cities. So therefore, the ulama would say that because you're going to be moving from one town to another, you're going to be musafir in all scenarios. Some ulama say, well, if you look at modern terminology, all of that is part of haram boundary, and all of that is still classed as part of the modern Makkah. So really, it's the same city that you're in. So if you're going to be in Hajj, from the moment you enter Makkah till the moment you finish your Hajj and leave, if it's going to be more than 14 days that you're going to be there, then you might not be musafir. Therefore, you will need to perform all of your salahs in full. So that will be based on what your package is and how many days they are. But majority of the ulama still say no, you are musafir, because they are separate towns. Although they're part of the outer Makkah, they are separate towns. Just like, for example, if someone comes to visit Leicester from outside of Leicester, they're musafir, then they go to, for example, Wigston, or then they go to Market Harbour or Melton Mowbray. They're all part of Leicestershire. They can't have outer Leicester or whatever, but they're separate towns and villages. So similarly, although it's very close by, they are separate towns and villages. So you will be musafir most probably in that scenario. If you're unsure about that, when you're there, each group has your guide. So that the scholars that you have there, ask them, this is what, am I musafir or not? Do I pray in full or not? But generally, you're going to try and perform all of your salah with jama'ah anyway. So the imam leading the salah, if the imam is someone local or someone who's not muqim, you'll pray what the imam prays. If the imam only prays two because he's musafir, then you're going to also pray only two with the imam. Combining in Muzdalifah, is it you combine Maghrib and Isha? Do we wait until the end of Maghrib time, or do we pray Maghrib and Isha together at Isha time? Yeah, so you're most likely you're not going to get to Muzdalifah where you're still in Maghrib time. Most people get to, by the time you get to Muzdalifah in the crowds, Isha time does start. Say you do get there, then you're going to have to wait till Isha time starts, and then once Isha time starts, then you combine your Maghrib and Isha in the Isha time over there. Next question. Is the combining of Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah wajib? This is part of the rites of Hajj. So this is how Salah is performed in Hajj. So yes. Yeah, you don't pray your salah individually for Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah. So that is how it's performed in Hajj. That's exclusive for Hajj, the days of Hajj, and for Muzdalifah. Wukuf with spouse, is it good and feasible for couples to be together in doing wukuf? If that helps you, then why not? Yeah. If the area you are in allows for that, and you want to do it, where you're close by to each other or you're standing at a similar place, yes, you can. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Is it good and feasible? That'll be for you to make a judgment based on the location, the crowds, the temperature, the weather. You might be energetic, but your spouse might not be, or vice versa. So all of those different factors will determine whether that's a good idea or not. How if we miss pebble didn't hit the pillar must be redo if it's yes it's from the beginning or only the number that we missed. So if you miss, for example, you done your third pelting and then the fourth one fell on the ground and you missed it, then obviously then the next one you do will be your fourth one. You don't need to start again from number one. It's not like in the tawaf where we said if you've done less than 3 rounds you should start again. That is only for tawaf. In pelting it doesn't matter. You might have done only one and then the second one fell on the ground, you missed it. So then your second one you throw is your second pelting. That is fine. Are sunglasses essential in general for Hajj? Another glasses question. Uh, it's a hot country. Yeah, it's going to be sunny a lot of the time. If you're doing wukuf, for example, in Arafat, you're doing wukuf and you're going to be standing in the sunshine. Yeah, you want to protect your eyes and you might want to conceal your tears also for the sake of having that sincerity of intention. Also, you might want to get some sunglasses. Or if you already wear glasses like mine, I've got glasses where if I go in the sun, they turn into sunglasses, react to lights. So that is also an option. But if you want more information about glasses and glasses, then obviously go to your optician and ask them, is my eyes okay to be in the sun or anything else in that scenario? Um, Clarify how we perform Sunnah Salah when combining Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah. So there is no Sunnah for Maghrib. Yeah, the Sunnah, if you want to pray, you can pray after Isha as an additional 2 rakats, but between the Maghrib and Isha, there's no Salah. So you pray your Maghrib Salah 3 rakats, you pray your Isha Salah thereafter. Some ulama do recommend that you pray 2 Sunnah of Maghrib after and then 2 Sunnah of Isha after, but all the Sunnahs have to be done after you pray your Isha Salah. Yeah, so that's how you will perform your Sunnah Salah when combining the Salah in Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah. So remember, after your 3 farad, don't stand up to pray anything other than the Isha Salah that you're going to perform. Do we need to do our annual Qurbani in this country apart from the Adahi we are doing for Hajj? That can be classed as part of your Qurbani for Hajj. Um, you can do a separate Qurbani also. Yeah, if you want to do additional Qurbanis, you don't have to be only do one. And also it depends on what type of Hajj you're doing. So if, for example, if someone is doing Hajj Ifrad, they're going straight into Hajj, then they don't have to do the Adahi of Hajj. Sunnah for them, but they don't have to do it. And so for them, they will only they can do their Qurbani for the days of Hajj, for Eid over there. That is the option there also. Is it more virtuous to walk rather than take the coaches? Remember, there is the hadith we talked about when you every step you take. So in terms of steps, well, obviously that was for tawaf, etc. But is it more virtuous to walk than to use mode of transport? Not necessarily. There is if you look at it from the angle of the fact that in Hajj, the best Hajj is the one that tires you the most. That you really feel that your hair is disheveled, your ihram is all over the place. You might have sand all over you. You might feel because of the walking, you're sweating, etc. And that is what really making you feel really humbled in front of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And so, if you're going to do your Hajj in an AC coach and you feel that is going to maybe make you feel luxury and feel that, I'm not feeling that element of sacrifice of, being, disheartened and heartbroken and, humble in front of Allah. I need to be put in that scenario so I can walk and I'll feel the heat and I'll feel tired and then I'll get the sand on me. That is the best Hajj. Yeah, that is the most, that is why it's really virtuous to be in that. So that is how maybe it can be more virtuous. But in terms of you get extra reward for working, no, you don't get extra reward for working. That's the question. What should be the size of the pebble? So, like I said, it should fit between your thumb and your index finger. Okay? It doesn't have to be a massive rock, and it shouldn't be so tiny that you can't even. It's just a little piece. A normal, small, tiny pebble that fits between your finger and your index finger and your thumb. And that is the size of the pebbles. Could you email us the slides if you want access to the slides? We are going to have both last week's and this week's recording on YouTube with the slides also. You can access it there. If you want, you've also got most of the slides in the booklet. But if there's anything else you do want, you can send us our email admin@hajjumrahessentials.co.uk. How much data would you recommend for internet access? That's based on how much I really, if you get the bare minimum, that will tell you I've got very minimal data, that will restrict your use of your phone. If you go and get unlimited data, then you're going to be using your phone more. So really think about what is it actually I need it for. Maybe I need it for my QR code in Medina. I might need it for just a quick WhatsApp to talk to my spouse or where to meet up, for example, or have you eaten or something. So maybe a little bit of that here and there. And other than that, I shouldn't really be using social media in Hajj. So if I use Instagram or Twitter, X or anything else I use, I'm not going to use that in Hajj. So then you won't need extra data. You shouldn't be needing to go on YouTube to take so much data also. So there should be no reason for you to have the extra data. So really think about what's the minimal you want to take. Yeah, the less you take, the better. And say if you do run out, the app does have an option for you to buy more package to top up your package. For that, you will obviously need to connect to Wi-Fi to do that, but that is possible also. Wearing a leather belt buckled with ihram, is this allowed? The material of the belt can be anything. Yeah. So the ihram belt that we normally have people wear that has stitching and other materials, they have different materials. We've got some other ones as well at the back as well. Um, some anti-theft ones where they are slash proof. So if someone tries to slash your belt, back then it used to happen quite a lot before, even in tawaf, etc. People used to come, used to smuggle their way into haram, and then they used to, steal from people. They used to find that belts have been slashed, their passports missing, money's missing, and so these slash-proof belts are a good option if you want to take the extra precaution. So even if you take a leather belt or any other type of belt, that is completely fine. Yeah, you can wear that in your ihram. The only thing you got to make sure is the ihram cloth itself that is not sewn to like a garment. That is the only thing that is not allowed, and you're not wearing anything underneath your ihram in terms of any additional clothing. Yeah, a belt is a essential to help you hold your ihram down, just like you might use a rucksack or a bag or anything else. So it could be any material, anything of that scenario. That is completely fine. Salah on the plane when traveling. Do we need to pray salah on the plane? And does the salah need to be repeated after? If you pray a salah sitting down on the seat of the plane because it's impossible for you to stand up and pray, then you will have to repeat your salah. Otherwise, try and perform the salah either before you board or after landing. If you're going on Saudi Airlines, they do have a designated area for salah. If you ask the air hostesses and the other people that work on the plane, sometimes I need to pray for 2 minutes. Is there an area I can pray? They might just take you to the back and let you pray there. Some airlines might even let you pray at the emergency exit. Some airlines are quite strict about that. So that is an option. Yeah. If you don't want to make your salah qada and you perform it on the seat, there's no option. And later on, you can make up that salah again. It will need to be made up again. Wearing medical mask for men, is this allowed? Wearing masks is making sure that that means you've got something physical on your face. That is a violation of ihram. If you do for medical reasons, your doctor has prescribed, or your health professional, or you're prone to illnesses more, and you've been advised that you need to wear a mask, then what you do to ensure that you don't do a major violation, if you look at the minor violations, covering the face less than a full night or full day. So if, for example, you don't spend the whole night or the whole day wearing the mask, here and there you open it, then it'll just be a minor violation. But every time you put it back on, that'll be the second violation. So for each time you wear that mask, for each period of time, will be sadaqatul fitr that you have to pay. Yeah. Although you might say it's a medical professional has advised you have to do that. Okay, you have to do that, but it's still a violation of the rules of ihram. So you can do that, but just give some sadaqah to pay off that, having done that in ihram. Just make sure that you don't keep it on for the full day. So otherwise, you will have, if you wear it for a full day, means from sunrise to from subh sadiq or sunrise till sunset, or full night from maghrib till fajr. If you wear in the mask without opening it, that will be a major violation. That will mean you need to slaughter a animal in the haram boundary, distribute that meat in the haram boundary. So really avoid that. Can husband carry his wife on his back if she's tired walking inside the ihram? MashaAllah, very romantic. Yeah. The husband can carry his wife on his back if she's tired walking in the ihram time, as long as obviously it's not going to lead to anything else, and it's not gonna make you want to. So remember, one of the things that was prohibited in ihram is anything that will also lead towards a feeling of intimacy. So if you're going to carry your wife on your back and you're then going to have other ideas also, then obviously then that wouldn't be permitted. But if your wife is tired, yeah, people also carry. You might see in Hajj also people carry. They have elderly parents have never been for Hajj. They can't access or afford a wheelchair even, so they carry their elderly parents on their shoulders or on their back. Same way, if you want to carry your spouse because your spouse is tired, absolutely. There's nothing, no reason why you can't or you shouldn't, as long as your obviously your hair doesn't get pulled out, your beard hair doesn't get pulled out, so, or anything like that. Any other violations happen. But other than that, it's fine. Can you wear rings, watches, bangles, etc.? Remember in ihram, I'm guessing this is from the sisters. In terms of jewelry, ihram is trying to devoid yourself of adornment. So if you have, for example, just have your normal wedding ring, for example, or something bare minimum, or you have a watch, which is fine. If you start wearing extra things, so extra necklaces and extra bangles and extra jewelry, then that is going against. So it doesn't mean that you need to pay a violation of ihram, but it's against the nature of ihram. Yeah, the nature of ihram is to try and make you the same as everyone around you. Hence, for men, everybody, it doesn't matter. You could be the king, or you could be a cleaner of the street or anything else. Everyone's wearing the same. Everyone looking the same. Yeah. So the whole point of Hajj and Umrah is to bring everyone to the level of equality. So if you have extra jewelry, extra adornment, that is going against the nature of ihram also. So really avoid that. I think I've covered most questions. There was one more I missed somewhere. Um, I've covered all of those. I think there was one about halal meat. Where what is our individual responsibility for checking the halal status of meat? Is it is asking it is halal is sufficient? Do we need to inquire watani or non-watani? If you ask, everybody's going to say it's halal because the box that the delivery comes in says halal on the box. Yeah, even if it comes from Brazil or Holland, it says halal on the box. That doesn't mean the chicken is halal. Yeah, I've told you that the imported meat that is that. So I'll tell you one thing about halal meat industry. The halal meat industry in the world, the best halal meat industry right now of imported meat currently used to be Malaysia. Now it's been overtaken by Malaysia. It's actually Thailand. Thailand has got the best halal meat industry, most proficient halal meat industry. There's some ulama from South Africa and other places I went and done their research, and Thailand is number one. Number two is Malaysia, and number three was the halal system that they have in South Africa. And then obviously, if it's come from an Arab country, then all the Arab countries, the slaughterhouses are run by Muslims, performed by Muslims. So if it's come from there, then those are guaranteed halal in terms of imported meat. In terms of local meat in Saudi Arabia, a lot of places will have on their window or advertise, either say mahalli, which means local, or it'll say watani. Watani means it's from our country, it's local meat. That way you are guaranteed that the food you are consuming is halal. If you, it's better if you ask and someone says it's halal and you've eaten it, you won't get the sin of eating halal, of not halal. So you've done your job asking for halal. But the problem is that Rasulullah also mentioned that if we've got haram running through our bloodstream, Rasulullah gives an example. You know what I talked about ihram, how we feel very, we got our hairs disheveled, we're like a traveler, we're very humble in front of Allah. Now, even if that type of person, so you see them in the heat and they say, oh, please, can you give me some water? Straight away, you'll give them water. So if we feel like that as humans, how will Allah feel when He sees His slave like that? So the Prophet gives an example. There's a person who's like that, disheveled hair, he's in a really poor state, his tears are really, he's crying his eyes out. And his hands are stretched to the sky and he's saying, Ya Rahimin, Ya Allah, Ya. He's making dua upon dua, but not a single dua is accepted. Why? He's eating his haram, he's drinking his haram, his clothing is haram, he's earning his haram. فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. Rasulullah said, how can his dua be accepted? So we're going there for dua. Remember, the key theme of Hajj was dua. Not to enjoy a burger meal or a steak or a roasted chicken or fried chicken that you saw online that you really want to eat because it's a famous brand, for example, and you're unsure it's halal or haram. So better be safe than sorry. Yeah. Unfortunately, this situation does happen. They do have imported meat where the country they send it, they just say it's halal. Ulama have gone and done their research, and many of these countries, like Brazil, like Holland, like European countries, they advertise halal meat, they import halal meat and export halal meat. But the systems they have in those slaughterhouses, they have something, for example, some of them have a CD recording playing of someone saying Bismillah, and the machine is just cutting, there's no one there, or stuff like this. So that or the animals been stunned and they've actually died before they got to the slaughter. So there's no proof of the animal being halal. In fact, it's not halal. And if it's not halal and we consume that, we've got the haram running through our bloodstream, our body's been nourished by the haram food, then as a result, What did Rasulullah say? فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. How is his du'as going to be accepted? So really Hajj is dua. Yeah, like we mentioned. The key theme was dua. So really better to be safe than sorry. That is what I'm going to leave it there in terms of the discussions on halal meat. So obviously your job is to ask if it's halal. If you ask and someone says it's halal, you've done your job. But if you're still unsure, you still have doubt, or if you ask the question, is it local, and they started changing, they get a bit very personal or defensive, then you know there's a problem. Because the ones that are local, they're very proud of it. They will say it with very enthusiasm, and some of them will even show you the sign, or not many of the places now have signs in there of where the meat's from. So if they start getting defensive and say, brother, it's halal, why are you asking? Then you know that, okay, there's a reason why he's getting defensive, because they know people who come every year from all over the world. People ask the same question: is your meat local? Is your chicken local? If they get defensive, then they know that there isn't. It's imported. Then you can ask them which country is imported from. If it says, oh, just generic, they don't give you specifics, avoid it, go to the next place. Yeah. And really, our focus should not always be food. A lot of the things will be provided for us. If you're unsure, ask your group leader. And nowadays, the vision of Saudi Arabia is to try and have a lot of ingrown things for their own reasons. They are going towards local things for other reasons anyway. So they, as a country, are really pushing the locals to move towards a localized industry. So it's much easier than it was, say, for example, 5 years ago. But now more places are local than it was before. Hopefully that will give you a bit more peace of mind, but really just be careful of that. Other than what we mentioned over here, I think I've covered all of the questions on here. Is there any other questions that we have on the floor over here that I will quickly answer before we make dua and end the session? Or if you feel that you've mentioned a question, I've missed it out, I'm trying to just double check I've answered all the questions. Muzdalifa, we mentioned that one. I think so. We've covered all the questions on here. Is there anyone else that have any more questions that they want me to really go over? No. Yeah. Oh, I think I missed that one. Sorry. Can you smoke during Hajj? Yeah. Good question. Whether it's halal or haram, I'm not going to give you a fatwa that smoking is halal or smoking is haram. But your question is, can you smoke in Hajj? If you're really addicted and you really have to, minimize it. Do it in an area where there's not going to be other people around you. Um, But really, if you can survive in ihram to really minimize or not smoke, then it should be a key, a golden opportunity for you to either stop smoking or reduce smoking. Yeah. I know of one person who went for Hajj last year who had been smoking for 37 years of his life. He went for Hajj, he was in ihram, and he didn't feel comfortable. He took the cigarette out, he didn't feel comfortable smoking in ihram. So he said, maybe I'll do it after I come out of Ihram. I'll try survive for 3 days. I'll have some chewing gum and some whatever else. I'll try sleep and just bottle it out for 3 days, do some sabr like I do in Ramadan. And then when he came out of Ihram, he felt, well, I'm still in the Holy Lands. Although I'm not in Ihram, I still feel uncomfortable. So then they said, okay, once I exit the Haram boundary, when I'm on my way to Medina, I'll smoke over there. When he was over there, then he had his elderly mother with him, and he didn't feel right smoking in front of his elderly mother. So he thought, okay, when I get to Medina, I'll smoke over there. Then he got to Medina, and he remembered our workshop when I talked about the sanctity of the land of Medina and the Prophet ﷺ being there. He said, I didn't feel like smoking in Medina. So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to smoke anymore. So but then he goes, Alhamdulillah, that after 37 years of smoking, I've stopped smoking just because of this journey. If you really feel it, I've switched to vaping. I'm not recommending vaping. That's his alternative, but that is also very minimal. This is someone who's told me their own scenario story. So whether you can smoke in ihram or not, it won't be a violation of Umrah, of Hajj, of your ihram, if you do smoke, of your Hajj. But really, think of the people around you, think of the sanctity of the place, think of Hajj being transformative for you, being a life-changing experience for you. Make it the intention. Maybe if you can't completely, stop because of how addicted you are, then really minimalizing that, or really trying to go as many days as you can without it. So when you come back, then that can be steps for you to really wind down on that habit. Allah make it easy for you, and Allah bless you. And lastly, inshallah, any more questions, or we can end with dua, inshallah. Yeah, you can wear a watch. So, for example, even if you're wearing a smartwatch or even a normal watch, you can wear a watch in ihram. That's completely fine. Yeah, you can wear that. Any other questions? If you're doing qurbani here and there, you can do it, but you can. if you're, it's not compulsory to do both. I'll double check on that on you for you. If you can just see me after the workshop, inshallah, and I'll take your number and I'll give you a exact answer on that. But I can't remember exactly whether the qurbani of Hajj can be counted as your qurbani here as well. I'll double check for you and I'll get back to you, inshallah. But I'll see you after the take your details, inshallah, and get back to you. Other than that, any other questions? Bring them. Some say because in the original books of fiqh there used to be another violation of ihram being that you can't fragrance your food also. So originally, some ulama used to say that if chewing gum is like using fragrance, but no, it's completely fine because you're allowed to use toothpaste in ihram to brush your teeth. Similarly, you can chew chewing gum in ihram, or you might even have a fruit or something, a type of food that will make your breath smell better. Yeah, there are certain foods that do that. Back then, they used to use enhancement of fragrance or certain oils in food also. Hence, that was a clause, but that no longer is a prevalent practice in our society in our time. So hence, chewing gum does not fall under that category. Neither does toothpaste. So you are allowed to use chewing gum in ihram. Yes, that's completely fine. Any more questions? No, so Jazakallah khair for attending. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your coming here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make your journey easy for you. May Allah accept your journey. All the challenges that you might face on the way, Allah make them easy for you. I'm not saying that you're not going to get challenges. May Allah reduce any unnecessary obstacles. May Allah make the journey really smooth for you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your Hajj, make a Hajj mabrur maqbool. When you're there at every location of Hajj, when you see some of the things that we've discussed, hopefully you'll remember me in that instance. Yes, Maulana talked about this, now I understand. So inshallah, when you remember me, you'll make dua for me also. That's my hope from you, inshallah. That's my only charge from you. People have said to me that, many people charge for these workshops. Why don't you have a little admin charge, for example? I said, no, my charge is that they make dua for me when they go there. They are going to Allah's house, they are guests of Allah, they will make dua for me there. That is more than anything that any monetary repayment can give, inshallah. So when you're there, when you remember at these instances, do make dua for me, make dua for the ummah also as much as you can. We'll make a quick short dua, inshallah, and then we'll end the session, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات، وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات، وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات، وترفعنا بها عندك أعلى الدرجات، وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات، إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم اغفر أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم ارحم أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم فرج عن أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم تجاوز عن أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم أصلح أحوال أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم أنجي المستضعفين من المؤمنين. اللهم أنجي المستضعفين من المؤمنين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين المظلومين في فلسطين وفي شام وفي كشمير وفي اليمن وفي كل مكان يا رب العالمين. اللهم احفظهم. اللهم احفظ أموالهم. اللهم احفظ دماءهم. اللهم احفظ بيوتهم. اللهم احفظ مساجدهم. اللهم احفظهم من بين أيديهم ومن خلفهم وعن أيمانهم وعن شمائلهم. اللهم عليك بأعداء الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم أرنا فيهم عجائب قدرتك. اللهم منزل الكتاب ومجري السحاب وهازم الأحزاب اهزمهم وانصر الإسلام والمسلمين عليهم. اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم. اللهم تقبل منا ربنا، تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم، وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على حبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. آمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, before you leave, do help yourself to the refreshments, the tea and coffee, etc. And also, any questions or anything, our details should be on the booklet also. And any products you also want to maybe get, there's some products that you might want to look at the back that can help you for your journey, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.